What's up, bro?
What's happening? There we go.
Here you are again.
I know.
See you again.
How are you?
I'm great, man. I'm doing fucking fantastic. I gotta stop cussing. You gotta remind me to stop cussing.
All right. Nah,
I'm trying to stop cussing.
I can't stop cussing, man.
It's for my daughter. I'm doing it for my daughter.
Right.
She's
Yeah.
starting to copy us. And I don't want her to copy us at the wrong moment.
Yeah, exactly.
You know. But you can cuss all you want.
Yeah.
She just can't get it from me.
Okay. So yeah, how are things been? How's the biz?
The business is, I'm always busy doing a lot of stuff. I'm especially busy right now with my daughter.
Mm-hmm.
I'm spending a lot of time with her, like always. I love it. There's nothing else that I'd rather do. There's nothing else that I'd rather be doing. How people are, some people are geniuses, like Nikola Tesla, or, David Bowie might be considered a genius, or so many different kinds of people, artists or whatnot. I don't want to be that kind of a genius, because I want to be at home with my daughter.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't want to be the dude that's never there, but the whole world loves him, but he was never there for his kids.
Right, and that's pretty much comes with the job, if you take on that lifestyle.
Yeah, and for what? Like, for what is that? Yeah. To me, it just depends on where your values are, because to me, it doesn't matter if the world loves me or not. It matters what I do at home, what I do with my daughter, or with my wife,
Exactly.
So,
And as long as your career is like working for you, that's all that really matters, And you got something to look forward to and some kind of purpose,
Yeah, man, I'm stoked about my life every day. I give thanks every day.
Me too, man.
I was just thinking about that today. How you throw the word privileged around. I don't know what other word to use right now, but we're very fortunate.
Definitely.
To be in the position that we're in.
Yeah.
And I know from living it that I'm very fortunate.
Yeah.
I'm not rich. I'm not wealthy.
But you are, though, and you are rich because your wealth is measured in your happiness. You get your joy from what you do.
Yeah.
And that's the richest you could ever be.
Yeah. I get my joy from my whole life is a work of art.
Yeah.
Like that's what it's come to.
Yeah.
People are like, "Oh, Goliath, you're a musician, or like play some music." Yeah, I do that. You can come out and see me live somewhere. Check my website. But that, and then I've been a poet, I've been a musician, I've been a writer of sorts, I've been a web designer, I've been a graphic designer, I've been an illustrator. I'm doing this crap.
Yeah.
But that's what I've come to realize, that my whole existence is an art form. I made a vow years ago, like 14 years ago, to only make a living doing things that I make. Through things that I make.
That's the
It
same.
could be music, it could be poetry, it could be whatever. It could be anything. But if I have to make it.
Yeah.
And, I'm not going to buy things wholesale in China and then come over here and sell them over here.
Right, exactly.
I might have covered that in this podcast before, but it's a recurring theme because that's my life.
Yeah.
So I'm living. And, that's what it is. That's what I think real art is, to make your whole life a work of art.
Yeah.
So yeah, man, in that regard, it's fantastic. It's raising my family is a work of art.
Yeah.
To me, it's part of it. And I'm trying to figure out ways to incorporate that. That's the challenge right now.
Yeah.
A toddler around, and my wife is pregnant again with another baby. So
right.
That's I'm trying to figure out how to balance all of that with this nuclear family.
Wow.
It's not easy.
It's beautiful though.
Oh yeah.
It's not. I mean,
yeah. It's my challenge.
Yeah, exactly.
And somebody else didn't put this on me.
No, exactly.
I can quit and go get a job. Some 9-to-5 job.
Yeah, but you also want to. The reason you wouldn't do that is because you want to set an example for your children to pursue their dreams and live life according to their own terms.
Yeah.
And that's something that I realized after coming back from Venezuela when I was maybe 20.
Mm-hmm.
is that, you know, you have a choice that you gotta make. Are you gonna jeopardize your integrity? Are you gonna jeopardize what you love in order to get ahead or to get some sort of gain or financial gain? And at that point, I realized that I pretty much put my financial goals completely away and decided that I wanted my validation to come from what I did and not from what I earned. So putting that, you know, I've always wanted to be an artist. I always wanted to be a musician. So there's just really no other option for me. I really didn't leave myself any other plan B or anything. At this point, it's like, that's all I want to do. I get my fulfillment from pursuing my career as opposed to the benefits that my career could award me. Like, you know, somebody might say, I want to become a lawyer because it's a good field to be in because you can make some good money, or I want to enter real estate because there's money in real estate. But that's not at all what I wanted to do when I was choosing my path. I thought to myself, well, as long as I can survive and take care of my basic needs, you know, shelter, food and water, and everything else is gratuitous on top of that. Everything else is cherry on top. Mm-hmm. And what's going to really feed me internally, you know, it's going to be what I do, what I pursue, you know. And that realization is sort of breaks you free from this system that you're sort of born into, that you sort of have no control over.
I know what you're talking about. This commie pinko scum, bro.
You're always going to get some commie nonsense when you talk to me, yeah.
You're talking about this utopian, you don't need anything more. It's about making money here, bro.
Right.
Domination, hostile takeovers.
I just can't, you know, like I said, I just can't. I just can't imagine, like, what I would be sacrificing to make money, what I would be sacrificing for a certain financial goal will be too great for me to actually do it. Like, for me to actually, like, you know, like, for a while I thought about becoming a lawyer. Now that we're talking about that, I said that earlier. You know, my dad graduated as a lawyer, and I always thought I would do well in that. But it's just not worth it to me at all. I have no interest in pursuing that career, even though it could mean financial success. And
wait, so when did art become your life?
When I was 4 years old.
No, but like in your adult life.
In my adult life?
Yeah.
Well, dude, I've honestly, and this is me looking back now.
Because you had to work a job somewhere, right? Like
yeah.
something.
Well, so my first job out of high school, every summer I worked at a deli in Pittsburgh, and my brother, he went to art school in Pennsylvania, and I would go visit him every summer, and he worked for Iron City Pro Boxing, which is like a big boxing house in Pittsburgh. You know, there's a lot of boxing in Pittsburgh, and he did all the design for that, and he was going to art.
I didn't know that. But
yeah. Mm-hmm. He did all the poster design for that, for the boxing matches, and went to art school. He lived with a bunch of college roommates, you know, and a very diverse crowd, very diverse. I got exposed to a lot of stuff over there. Mm-hmm. And I worked there as the owner of the boxing gym also owned a deli, and I worked there making sandwiches or whatever, and it was like a summer job. And but yeah, I learned a lot from hanging out with that crowd, you know. And my brother really inspired me because, you know, he chose the arts as a career path, and it kind of showed me like, well, you can do this. You know, this is something you can do. And while I was there, he taught me how to use like InDesign and Illustrator and Photoshop, and you know, we would go make T-shirts at like screen printing studios, and he would just show me.
This is your older brother?
My older brother,
okay,
yeah. He's technically my half brother, but you know, I always kind of looked up to him. We didn't really grow up. We didn't live in the same house or anything, but
your brother kind of reminds me. Qualities that you mentioned about him remind me of my brother.
Yeah.
Your relationship with him.
Yeah. We were like buddies, you know, and like I would see him periodically, and
my brother hated me though.
He hated you, yeah. I mean, I don't know if my brother hated me, but he
for a little while.
Yeah. and I have such great. I mean, I'll put it this way, man. Like, his roommates.
He had a right to hate me.
Were you a bad? Were you a bad little brother?
I was just. It was just a bad situation.
Yeah.
I don't want to get into it.
Well, he lived with this guy from the Bronx who was really funny, man. This guy was he was from the Dominican Republic, or he is from the Dominican Republic, and raised in the Bronx, but a character, straight up a character. Then he had this lesbian couple that was also his roommate, and one of the girls was from Venezuela, actually, funny enough, and the other girl was American, and then another roommate was an art school person, a girl as well. But it's like a very diverse kind of crowd of people coming in and out, and like they were all pursuing their lives as artists, and it inspired me.
What city was this in?
Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
What part of Pittsburgh? Is it a big city? Pittsburgh. I've never been there.
Okay, well, they lived in an area called Mount Washington, and the way Pittsburgh is kind of set up from. Again, I mean, if any Pittsburgh natives listening here, I don't know what I'm talking about, but this is the way I learned it over there. It's kind of like a bunch of neighborhoods that are up in mountains, and they're like inclines that come down to the city, and there's a bunch of little districts. It's kind of like a valley, I guess, is the way it's set up. And he lived in one of the mountains called Mount Washington, and we would commute down to the city every day, and whatever. But yeah, that climate, being around those people that were older, who were pursuing a life in the arts, really inspired me. And when I came back, every time I would come back a little bit wiser, a little bit
back to Jacksonville.
Okay,
wow.
Yeah, and this is during high school. Every summer I would go. And once my brother taught me how to use all the design programs and stuff, I started doing little gigs here in town in high school with that skill set. So I've been doing that since I was pretty much 17 years old. And I still do it now. I still do freelance design work. And because of my fine arts background, I have a pretty good eye for design, and also I'm a pretty good illustrator. I feel like that's a strength of mine. And so I've been able to make a living doing that, or not even make a living, but make money doing that. And that's my first sort of window into okay, you can actually, if you hustle and pursue this, you can actually make money as an artist. And
did that freak you out when you realized that you could make a living as an artist? In a good way, did you realize it right away that you could sustain yourself this way, or were you thinking it was going to be something temporary?
Well, in hindsight, I mean, I wasn't really thinking, because I'll tell you what. Back then, I didn't go to college. I mean, after high school,
get out of here.
I'm out. Yeah, exactly. So there's a lot of
I thought I had a college graduate on here, bro.
Yeah, exactly. I don't qualify anymore. But I mean, it's kind of a
watch your P's. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you, man. I'm just saying that because of the mic. That mic.
I know, man. I feel like I sound really bad. Do I sound bad?
No, it sounds good.
Okay, good.
No, it sounds good. But I'm saying if you say a P, don't say it that way. Don't say it into the mic, because you make it pop.
Right.
Yeah. This one's got this little afro on it, square afro.
Yeah. Little pubes.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah. It in hindsight, yeah. But back then, I was playing it by ear, and I did a lot of gigs that I didn't declare or or even think about how they would look in a portfolio type thing, or a resume. I just was doing whatever was coming my way, and it was just sort of a little bit of money here, a little bit of money there. At one point, I worked when I came back to the States after living in Venezuela. I had a whole different career path over there. Over there, I was teaching English and I was teaching guitar in a little school. So there was that. I can talk about that in a little bit, but now focusing back on this. When I came here in the States, I worked as a storyboard artist. I worked at this place called the Cross Agency at the Prudential Building, and I did a couple storyboards for like 3 storyboards for 3 pretty big commercials, and but I was so young back then. I didn't know about. I mean, I was probably getting screwed like massively. You know, I wasn't getting paid what I should have been paid. I wasn't.
What were they paying you, $25 a gig or something?
Something like that, like $25 per. Well, no, I was getting paid like $10 per board per panel or something, which to some people might seem like, well, that's a lot of money. Mm-hmm. Oh, sorry. It might seem, well, that's a lot of money, but it's like it's not really, because the industry standard is much higher than that. But you know, I was starting out, so you know that's sort of like to be expected. But and then I started doing the music thing, and I've been playing in bands for a long time as well. So I've been doing the art thing, and I've been playing in bands since I was in high school. And I finally got to a point where I was hanging out with professional musicians, and I sort of got to break into gig opportunities. So it's just sort of, ever since, it's been kind of a balance between doing music and doing art, and kind of.
So you've never had to get your hands dirty at Red Lobster?
Never, no.
Or
never, no.
What do you know, man?
I mean, I worked at a deli, but
no,
that's pretty much.
Yeah,
I never worked for like a corporate thing. I've always worked under the table, and I've always been a gig guy. You know, even.
I've never worked at Red Lobster, by the way.
Well, I mean,
I worked at Chili's for a short period of time.
How was that?
That was very illuminating to diet, and the restaurant kitchen was amazing in the back.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just like, people, I'm never eating here again. You know, I was like, yeah, I just changed my perspective on certain restaurants. Before that, I worked at a 5-star restaurant or a 4-star restaurant. And, you know, their kitchen habits are different.
Yeah.
They don't like, if you go into the back of a restaurant, a chain restaurant, well, anyway, back then anyway, you would see a war zone back there. You would see chips all over the floor, and like French fries.
I can imagine, man.
Just pieces of stuff in the corner.
I mean, I just have no desire to go to those places, man. Honestly,
ranch dressing is king there. That's where I learned about ranch dressing being king.
I hate
everybody
ranch.
wants ranch on the side with everything. Ranch on the side.
I hate ranch.
Yeah.
I can't even do dishes that have ranch on them because it makes me gag. Like, I hate the smell of it so much.
It's mayonnaise.
It's basically what it is, right?
It's mayonnaise and some other stuff. My wife taught me that. She knows all about ranch. She likes ranch. She's from the South, so she likes ranch. And I didn't learn about ranch until I moved to Dallas, Texas.
It's like a zesty mayonnaise.
Yeah, it's something like that. You know, the only thing I knew about ranch in Los Angeles, growing up in Los Angeles in the Chicano barrio, was that ranch dressing was on Hidden Valley commercials with a southern white man's voice. You know, here in Hidden Valley Ranch.
That's hilarious.
I've never seen a place that looked like that ever in my life. Where is that? It's where Molly Ringwald lives. In that middle class house that I haven't ever even seen one of those middle class houses with 2 stories, and this is a normal household, and they're in high school. You know,
yeah,
I'm like,
I don't know. Yeah, like normal upper middle class.
Yeah,
but I like to talk about my experience working in Venezuela. That was a really fun experience for me, professionally teaching English over there. Mm-hmm. So I taught for 2 years, and I taught at an English school, like a after school kind of institute. And that was a blast, man, because I taught everybody from high schoolers to young adults, and even older people that were just trying to learn English after hours and stuff. And I really got to talk to some great people and meet some great people over there. Mm-hmm. And also it made me more. I learned a lot about language and about made me a better writer, made me a better speaker.
What city in Venezuela were you teaching now?
Caracas.
Caracas. Okay,
yeah,
that's the capital.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
What does Caracas mean? Do you know?
I don't know. It's probably
an interesting word.
It's probably some Indian name.
Oh yeah.
Native,
okay.
You know, or I might be. I mean, geez, I'm probably wrong. Anybody out there from Venezuela? I don't know shit, but I don't know what it means. But
I was just curious.
Yeah, it was a really great...
Because I know what maracas means.
What does it mean?
You know, it's an instrument.
Oh, right. But yeah, that was great. And then I also taught guitar at a little art school. And then I did private lessons and stuff for both. And they were both great, man. You know, the thing about Venezuela is, like, if you are educated and you're, like, kind of, like, considered, like, not lower class, because it's it's a class system over there that's insane. You can go far, man. Like, especially being bilingual and, like, kind of being like a, you know, it's. I mean, there's I could have had a lot of opportunities over there in terms of that, but the problem is that the living there is, like, insane. You know, it's impossible. You can't live there. I mean, at least for me, I couldn't.
The rent or just the lifestyle? Or?
Well, for one, it's really dangerous in terms of, like, the crime situation. I got used to it. I commuted every day. I went through the barrios and all that, and I was in there with the people. And I went. You know, I traveled to all different parts of the city, but it's just too stressful, man. I just can't. I couldn't do it, and
like, you'd have to carry a knife with you or a gun or something. Would you feel safer if you did that?
I mean, I don't even know, man. I mean, it's not like people just don't carry guns over there, you know. Unless you're a criminal. I don't know. I mean, I don't know enough to comment on it, but I do know that it's, you know, you go through stages. First, you're, like, completely oblivious, and then you get a huge reality check once you're in that situation, and then you become really paranoid. And then,
you mean if crime is going down, or just being around there?
Just living there.
Oh, wow.
There's, like, so many people, so many different kinds of sounds, so many different types of things, and you know about crime, you know about the murder rate, you know about the places you should go and you shouldn't be at, the certain times you should be at places, certain times you shouldn't be.
I'm listening, bro.
And and then after the paranoia, you sort of become, naturally, you get used to it, and you begin to accept things that are not normal. You begin to accept, you know, certain behaviors that you're like, I shouldn't be like on edge every time I walk. I shouldn't be, like, on the street, like, conscious of where, like, my wallet is, and, you know, how much I blend in, and, you know, like, you sort of develop.
I grew up like that, man.
You develop all these senses. You develop all these, like.
I grew up in that water, though.
A peripheral, you know, that's, like, totally different. And, you know, you get used to it. And when I came back here to the States after that, having lived that, I was like, what in the world? Like, I have all these heightened, sort of, like, perceivers, you know, around me, because I'm always kind of having to check my surroundings. But here it's like crickets outside and, like, a 95, and
you're looking over your shoulder all the time.
And it's like,
you're looking at the cars that are driving up and down the street. You're aware of all these things. You're hypersensitive to things, and people, in comparison to what you're going through, people here are asleep.
Completely.
Yeah.
Completely. And that's one thing when I was over there, I felt, even though I felt scared at first, and even though, like I said, some of those feelings might feel a little bit abnormal and surreal, but I felt alive. I felt like a level of liberty, like scary levels of liberty, because over there the infrastructure is, like, so shaky that I felt like I could do anything over here. Like, literally, like, I'm like, I have way too much freedom. Everybody has way too much freedom, and it was kind of great in one sense. But I mean, I don't even know, man. I don't know what's right.
So you think that people are more free there in what ways? Like,
I mean, back then, I mean, I don't know how it is now. I know now Venezuela in particular is going through a really rough patch. I know it's, like, really fucked up over there right now, but what I mean is, like, over there, and I guess it's same, maybe not as much here, but the police, for instance, is kind of like another gang, basically.
Mm-hmm. Like Mexico?
Is that how it is in Mexico?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
The police is just like a gang. So as long as you steer clear of that gang, it's like steering clear of any other gang. So it's like, you know that this is like, you can get fucked with it any time, but you also know that you're just out there in the world and it's just you. There's no blanket. There's no like facade. You're really in the real world and you're confronting the real world and you're living in it and you're engaging in it. But here it's like so much safe. The illusion of safety is so great that all these instinctual things that you sort of feel as a human, like things that you evolved with from like 4 million years ago, having to like survive from like tigers and cheetahs in the African savannah. These sort of like instincts that you naturally have, which I got to experience living in Venezuela. Here, I feel like you suppress them because there's this illusion of like safety and like, like there's sort of like a parent watching over you, making sure that everything runs smoothly. Mm-hmm. But it's bizarre, man. I don't even know what it means to be a sensible human being anymore. I don't.
There was a story I heard that was really interesting about a lady with 2 kids, and she was having a really hard time for her whole life. She was like maybe, I guess, in her 30s, and she was having a hard time in the United States. She couldn't get it together, and she was living in a shelter with her kids. And they gave her this proposition that she can go to this other country, and she would have a house near the water, whatnot, all this stuff, but she wanted to stay here. Because there's this illusion, it's a powerful illusion.
Very powerful.
Of that something is great here, and greater than somewhere else.
Right.
And I have a hard time shaking it myself. People tell me, hey, you want to move to Mexico? I think about all of these things. I have family who lives in Mexico. I have a lot of family who lives in Mexico. This gives me pause also in social media. People here, because of that safety net, people are here like, oh, here's my life. This is my brother. This is my sister. I might or might not have posted things about organizations of Mexico where my family lives in the state that it's very bad. Mm-hmm. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know. What if they don't like that? What if they don't like if something that I post online? Exactly.
Yeah. And that's the thing too, like people in here in the States are afraid of uncertainty. They want security.
What if I get rich? Like all the other people, like that lady who's waiting in the shelter. What if I get rich and then they want to kidnap my family and take the money? But you were saying about uncertainty?
Oh, well, yeah. Well, that's not uncertainty, but yeah, people want to know that they're taken care of. People want to here the plan is you're born into this system, and if you play ball, you're going to be okay. You're going to be taken care of. You're going to have security for the rest of your life. But there is no security. Security is
bro. You're going to have maximum security.
I mean, there just really isn't any security, and people say, well, you got to think about your 401k and whatever, and it's like I doubt that upon my deathbed.
Credit, bro. That's why the universe was made.
Upon my deathbed,
gotta have good credit.
I doubt that that's gonna be on my mind.
It's on the periodic table of elements. Credit. It's a particle. It's an economic particle.
God, it's insane. Scientists. And I just don't. I refuse to buy into it. I just don't. I think that this stupid illusion of safety can go away so quickly. At any given moment, this whole thing can come crumbling down, and you're just left to fend for yourself. And I mean, and again, I'm not fueling like those crazy like kind of like apocalyptic kind of conspiracy people that like you gotta fucking grow your own food and get a basement situation.
Oh, I'm a prepper, dude.
You're a prepper.
I'm a prepper. Dude. Well, I'm getting into it.
Well, see, that's cool. That's really cool. But at the same time, is like, I feel like that the whole no rules thing, the whole like Mad Max kind of vision of the world, that is the way the world operates. It's just sort of underneath this veil. You know what I mean? But I feel like at the end of the day, like you're just one entity upon, on a sea of agendas.
It's almost like the people who are in gatekeeper positions, like the powerful people, the people who are supposedly sociopaths. They know that the world is really like that.
They know that. No, exactly. And
that's why it's a dog-eat-dog world, and it's going to take over.
And then they prey on laymen who are like buy into the system because you're born into it, and you're from day one, from preschool, you're taught to be obedient, and you're taught to be
turn the other cheek.
Exactly, and that's the thing too. Like, if one thing I've noticed a lot now that we're talking about social pyramids.
That's what I was telling you about in the last podcast. I was telling you about violence. Remember, I was telling you how I think that violence prevails over everything. Like, if it comes down to it, muscle and force prevails over anything intellectual, anything spiritual.
About love.
It trumps it. It trumps it. Well, I don't know if it trumps love.
Yeah.
But, like, for example, something I didn't say last time was that I wanted to say, it just didn't come out. It's like, was that if you put the right form of violence on me or my family, I'll give you whatever you want.
Exactly.
Like whatever you want. It's like, you can have my house, you can have whatever you want.
Exactly.
And or the right threat, the right combination of a threat.
Does that mean that if you have nothing to lose and you're completely fearless, are you a much more dangerous person because
you don't give as much pause to what you're doing, and you definitely have that leeway to be more reckless and ruthless.
Yeah.
If you don't love anything.
Yeah.
If you don't give a shit about anything.
If you have no attachments.
I mean, you can have attachments to your ideology. You can have attachments to a lot of different things. It doesn't have to be people necessarily,
But see, that's the thing about that's a weird dichotomy, and that's something that I find very interesting in media. Me being, I'm an artist and I'm a musician, but I feel like an artist is first and foremost a storyteller of some sort, to some degree. I mean, every artist is sort of, even a musician, you're working with narrative, right? And that's sort of what gave birth to the arts is just the idea that human beings were storytellers, from the day one. That's kind of, to me, the birth of the arts in one sense. But, that's something that I find fascinating. The idea that that villains, in media and people who are portrayed as like bad guys or whatever are very interesting characters, because I feel like most people struggle with that persona within themselves, and I feel like the idea of love and ideology and passion as a gateway to perversion and violence, I think that is something that is truly connected and integral to the human experience.
When you said love as a gateway
to violence, because I mean, think about it. You say that violence rules all, but we don't know.
It trumps all. Yeah.
But
on this physical plane.
Mm-hmm. But I think love is capable of driving men towards violence, because what's the motivator to exert force and some sort of passion, some sort of ideology? And in order for you to commit enough to an idea, in order to harm somebody else, you have to be in love with that idea to some degree.
Well, you could just be ignorant. You could just be ignorant, and like, for example, throughout my life, growing up, I can look back and see different levels of ignorance of mine, and I'm so grateful that many of them didn't last very long.
Yeah,
and some of them lasted years. Something that I was ignorant to, or something that I just didn't have a sense for. For example, having a child, it's trite. People say it all the time. Something like, you don't know what it's like, or you won't know, Goliath, you won't know until you have this. And they're right. Like, for example, somebody who's been to prison, I bet you they can describe it all day long, and you can't really feel it. You can't understand it.
You can't.
Somebody's been to Vietnam, somebody's been to war, or somebody's seen, those kinds of things. You can't be there. Yeah. And, but you can understand it as much as you want, but there could be people who just don't have a sense for something. Like, let's say, take me at 18 years old, or take somebody, not me necessarily, but take somebody at 18 years old who maybe leans towards being a sociopath and has ideas of grandeur about themselves, and they grew up in a wealthy family. And this person is gonna not know a lot of things about a lot of people.
Yeah.
A lot of different kinds of situations. They're going to be completely oblivious to making this move is going to destroy these other people's lives until they see it.
Do you think that a lot of people are on that path to some degree, but not to the degree where it actually causes harm? But a lot of people are really invested in themselves to the point where they have blinders and only...
I know people who have blinders on, and they know they have blinders on, but they don't have any way out. They don't see any way out, and it's kind of a sad situation in that sense.
Yeah.
And our friendships, when that happens, somebody who's in a position like you, for example, or more like me, or in these kinds of positions, you end up only having certain kinds of friends, because the other friends can't hang with you.
Yeah.
If they stay that route, because they see you at home all day.
Right, exactly.
And they see you working on your art and doing whatever you want to do.
And you have to make apologies for your lifestyle to some degree, because and you know, that's, you said something very interesting there, and I feel like maybe that's, to be fair, maybe that's something about the system here, the kind of like the hidden collective mentality of I guess middle class America. Maybe the idea is that you don't place as much value on yourself, so that's good. You're thinking, okay, I gotta find my place in this society.
That's the collective idea here, you mean?
Well, I'm saying maybe not consciously, but maybe to some degree, it's like, I don't matter. I just need to be able to fit into this society and do whatever it takes, right?
Mm-hmm.
I have to make my mark that way. Support myself, support my family, and then have a dignified life. That's great in the sense that, like, you don't have ideas of grandeur about yourself. But why should it be that versus ideas of grandeur? Why can there be another option where you can feel fulfillment as an individual, but also contribute to your community and be part of something bigger than yourself that is not filling your ego? You know what I mean?
You really want to know?
Yeah.
Because America, bro. America. No, I'm being an ass, but really, this is what you're talking about right now. Something that goes through my mind maybe once a day.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. I love that there's other possibilities of completely different ways of being.
It's also important to question.
But it's painful that so many people can't see another way.
No. But you got to question even your own.
Idiot. I can't believe you think that's possible.
Yeah, exactly. But you gotta even question your own ambitions and your own lifestyle. I mean, I do it all the time. I'm constantly trying to. I mean, that's what human beings do. You justify what you do. Everybody does it. Hitler did it. Mother Teresa did it. You do it. I do it. We all try to justify what we do with reason and logic to some degree, or faith. Some people, you know. A lot of people actually with faith, but.
I don't think I justify what I do. I think I justify
to
it.
yourself. You tell yourself. You tell yourself. I mean, but I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm saying it's important to do that because, to me, part of my experience as a human being, what I enjoy, and this is kind of this is kind of something that brings me trouble in life. I'm constantly reevaluating where I stand and who I am and what I want to do. Because I'm afraid to become blinded by the things that I believe in. So I'm constantly reassessing. So maybe I'll have an opinion today about something, or maybe I'll make a choice about a certain thing today. But next week it'll be completely up in the air, and it's up for reevaluation.
Yeah, man, that to me is a sign of being sentient and aware and open.
But it brings me trouble.
To a degree that other people, to a degree that I don't think the majority of people are. Maybe half, maybe 40%, maybe 30%, maybe less, maybe 10%. But you know, that's not a place that everybody gets to.
But you know, that's weird because I've always considered myself a sort of an average guy. You know, I always thought to myself, these are things that everybody must experience, but people must be afraid to express them or something. I don't think I'm alone in this. I don't think I...
Well, the circumstances, the things, I think it's partly because of the way that your life happened to you. That you saw the extremes of wealth and poverty, and you got to be involved in both of those, and you went to Pittsburgh and you saw somebody living a different kind of life, you know. You're telling me about your brother. My brother got me started off thinking entrepreneurially at about 18 or 19 years old. He decided that he was going to sell stuff as a solicitor and just merchandise from business to business and on Wilshire Boulevard and Hollywood and all kinds of places.
The hustle lifestyle.
Yeah, man, and he showed me how to make $50 a day, $100 a day, $60 a day, just selling stuff. You go to the wholesale district and you buy stuff and you sell it. I didn't even know. And my brother's never been the same since he started doing that.
The fact that money can be liquid, it's not something that you have to wait for. Like, that's the thing that I kind of always criticize about this. Like, and again, I'm not making apologies for my lifestyle at all. And this is something that I don't.
For Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, $10.
This is something that I'm again constantly thinking about. I don't want to give my potential to a corporation in exchange for an allowance that I can't even perceive. Like, my wife just quit her job. She worked for 4 or 3 years at Allstate Insurance. It's like some sort of like what is it, like rental adjuster type of thing. And she hates it. She hated it. She hated it more than anything. And basically, that job was awarding us a lifestyle. It wasn't awarding us sustainability. We can sustain it. Like when I go out there into the world and I have to make $100, I'm actually feeling that $100. I'm actually experiencing the fruits of my labor firsthand. Mm-hmm. But my wife, when her job is an abstract concept, she goes in, she sits down, has a completely passive sedentary lifestyle, doing a job that a computer could do, or a job that she could do at home. But it's part of the indoctrination for her to go into the office, and then get this allowance. It's sort of like, okay, well, now you can go out and now that this 2-week period has come through, now you can go to a fancy restaurant, or now you can go to Amazon and buy your heart out, or you can purchase items that partners of this corporation own, so the money's not really going anywhere. But when you're living, I guess, like the lifestyle that we have, you sort of, every dollar, you see it. It's accounted for, and you can make logical, smart decisions with that money that are going to project for you and sustain you. You know what I mean? Like, I'll put it like, I'll put it this way. I played a gig at Bold Bean last night, and a guy gave us a $20 tip. See, that $20... I see that $20.
This Ethiopian chick gave me $25. Ooh, beat you.
That's good. That's a good feeling. But every time you get a $20 tip, you think to yourself, that is a partially a trip to the grocery store. That is a tangible piece of income that is actually going to help towards keeping this operation functional, keeping me making music, keeping me alive enough to pursue my art. My financial goals were pretty much gone out the window after age like 22. I realized unless I hit it big, or somebody who sees me as their golden goose, somebody realizes that I can make them a lot of money, unless that happens, I'm never going to be financially rich. Mm-hmm. I think I'm the richest man on earth. Internally, I have a great career that makes me feel good. I have a great life. I have a great wife. I have great friends. I have a great dog.
You fool.
I'm rich. And I make more than $25,000 a year.
We like it when they think this way, Duke and Mortimer.
Well, see, and that's the thing. $25,000 a year is like a mediocre, terrible salary, but that's already places you above the entire, like, most of the world population. You know what I mean? You're already a wealthy individual if you're making that much money. And to me, anything beyond your direct sustainability is just cherry on top. Mm-hmm. And I think if more people place their value not in material things or in sort of even fiction, people invest their lives into just watching TV. They just work so they can eat and watch TV.
Like the entirety of the things that you're talking about right now. I think more people are thinking this way.
I think so too.
Okay, but still, it's still a very minuscule amount because people are watching Game of Thrones or other stuff, or maybe even Game of Thrones watcher might be a little bit more attuned to this, but they're watching other stuff and they're watching television.
See, this is why I like this podcast. This is why I like talking to you, because I feel like you're informing me of a world that I am not a part of.
Well, the thing is,
know?
what you're thinking is normal to me. I think about that. You can ask my wife; she thinks like that too. You can ask my friend Adam; he thinks that way. You can talk to Eric; he understands what's going on. You know, you can talk to so many of my friends. Corey, I mean, I could just go on and on. And this is normal. It's like, to us, like, to somebody else, what you're saying might be mind-blowing. Holy shit, I never looked at it that way. There's people out there like that. You're probably not going to cross paths with people like that if you run in certain circles. But fortunately, there's the internet, which can potentially cross-pollinate things.
Yeah.
If people don't go into walled societies in there, you know.
Yeah.
I'm always like against going into walled societies on the internet. Like, this is my group of friends and this is how we think, this is what we're going to do. You know,
I'm having a hard time finding a community on the internet that I'm
kind of tired of it, dude.
I can't. I mean,
I'm saying that except for this podcast.
It's a great podcast. But I'm having a hard time finding a community that I can relate to in general. I mean, I feel like the internet is no different than real life. I feel like it's in direct correlation, but yeah, you know, I was talking to my friend Valerie yesterday. She came over. She's a co-worker of my roommate, you know.
Valerie loves me. Ignore me.
And she went to Mandarin High School. You know, she has a more average, I guess, like circle that she runs around. Like, people that she knows, people that are not in the same, that didn't go to art school and all that. People who are, I guess, like, more normal, I guess. I thought I was normal until I met her, and then I guess until you start telling me these things. But she was telling me yesterday, like, most people our age just go to the club and do the same thing people have been doing.
Whatever the TV tells them to do.
Exactly. Whatever is shallow culture, whatever. And I just have a hard time believing it, because I look out my window and I see the people that I see every day and interact with, and it's like, I just don't see it. I don't know where this is happening. I have a hard time believing that my generation
you don't see where those people are.
I don't.
Where? Yeah, because you know what? Because you're a Riverside rat, bro.
I guess you're. I mean,
no. What I mean is like, I don't really leave over here. Like, I don't go hang out other places regularly. I go to the beach and I go to St. Augustine, but I'm always. Well, I can't say always. I'm often in the same circle of level of mentality.
Dang. Well, see, you know, here's the thing I will tell people. Right now, I'm going to go on the record and say, here's what I would tell everybody.
Oh, wait. If you want to see those people, the ones that she's talking about. Okay. The next time there's like a big boat or car show at the landing, or the 4th of July celebration at the landing.
Oh my God!
Go to the landing, and you'll see oodles of people that she's talking about.
Dang, man, that's just depressing.
No, you got to check it out, though. You really got to check it out.
Yeah, I agree. But here's what I would tell people, and this is again, I guess maybe this is a way for me to.
Oh, those scummy people.
I don't want to. That's the thing. I don't want to offend anybody. Right. I don't want to say that this them.
That's why I was saying that.
Exactly.
Low lives.
I feel like you should live your life in whatever way you find sensible to you. What you got to ask yourself is, am I living the life that I want, or am I living a life that was given to me or I was told to live? Once you answer that question, then you can begin to be true. Then you can begin to really assess and begin to do the things that you love and begin to really settle into your lifestyle. But if you don't address those questions, then you're never going to be fully awake.
And the question that you're asking is essentially, does my life belong to me? Did I design this life? How much of your life have you designed?
Yeah.
You know?
And that's a hard thing to do because you're born into something you didn't choose. You're born into a world you didn't create, and making a life for yourself can be tough. But it takes courage, and I encourage everybody who's listening to this podcast to ask themselves that question and then to say, what makes me happy? You know, like, take this, use my example. Like, I told myself, I'm an artist, that's all, so I must create. I must be an artist. There's no other option because that's all I know how to do. If I was a cobbler, all I would do was make shoes because that's what I know how to do. If I was a plumber, it would be the exact same situation. But I think every person, in order to be a sensible human being who feels fulfillment, has to assess that question, what am I? Who am I? People have the mentality of like, I need to be so I can have. And once I have, I'm going to be. Mm-hmm. Or like, if I had $1 million, I would sail the world, or I would become a painter, or, you know, or it's like, I want to become a lawyer so I can have money, you know. Mm-hmm. People have this thing, but in reality, the way it works, everybody who's been successful that people admire successful people, are people that have told themselves, people who figured out who they are. Here's who I am. And then made no compromises about it and pursued who they are in as individuals, and then found their place in the collective as those strong individuals. So I encourage everybody out there who's like stuck in like a terrible situation. Maybe that means, you know, because it's unfair for me to say this. I'm a very privileged person, and that takes a very privileged perspective to realize that.
People are saying that word so much, I don't even know what it means anymore.
Well, I'll put it this way.
I mean, I know what it means. I look it up in the dictionary, but it's just, you know what happens when you say a word over and over again. It's like I tweeted the other day, artists should get rid of the word interesting from their vocabulary because it's overused and it means nothing. Yeah. The word interesting literally means nothing. Yeah, it's not exact enough.
Well, it's not really an opinion.
It's like the word that you use when you can't think of what you're thinking of.
Yeah, it's like mediocrity.
It was interesting.
Yeah, exactly.
What does that mean?
It's dumb. It's a dumb statement, but.
Are you calling it stupid?
I've been thinking, and one of the things that's been getting me to rethink my position in life, like I was telling you, I'm constantly wrestling and struggling about how to reinvent, you know, because I want to live the most sensible life possible, and again, I want to be able to justify it to myself the same way that everybody does. So, you know, I gig a lot, and you know this, in this lifestyle that you and I have, you usually get off work at like midnight. Mm-hmm. And, you know, you're usually kind of a night person. And
I used to be. I'm trying to find these early gigs. Got a baby.
Yeah, exactly. So I get home late, and I've been going to...
I still stay up late, though, but just not that late. As it past, like, 2 weeks, I've been, after I get off gigs or whatever, I've been stopping by my local neighborhood McDonald's. And I've been doing this as an experiment, and I've gotten to know the lady that works there. Because I've always, you know, like I live on Hendricks, you know, and it meets with the university. Mm-hmm. And there's like a whole food desert in university right there with like a McDonald's and a Wendy's and a KFC and a bunch of shit. And I've been stopping by that McDonald's pretty much for 2 weeks now, every night. I sort of get in my car, and it's like a ritual. I get a grilled chicken sandwich and a Diet Coke every time. And I've gotten to know this lady, and I just wonder what is her life? Why is she there? She's an immense... Wait, you go to McDonald's?
I mean, now I do.
Get out of here.
Now I do. No, now I do. I mean, it's not going to last because...
Anyway, don't listen to me, man. Just keep going. Tell me about this lady.
It's not going to last because I kind of really hate it. But I've just been doing it as an experiment, you know. Mm-hmm. And,
I can dig it.
And I met this lady, I mean, the first time I met her...
I'm going to go to Walmart in a little bit to save me... do an experiment to save me some money.
It's terrible. No, don't go to Walmart.
I'm just kidding. I had to go there once recently for diapers. You got to go.
Yeah.
You know.
But I went, and this lady, she was... The first night I met her, she was really overjoyed, and she was like screaming and laughing, and she goes, "I'm just happy tonight. I'm not on drugs or anything. I swear I'm sober." And then it kind of cracked me up, but then it made me think. It's like, is she working in McDonald's because she struggled with drug addiction? Is she working in McDonald's because she didn't have opportunities to do something else? So, you know, I've gotten to see this person, and I've
Is she working at McDonald's?
But yeah, you know, I want to. People don't usually humanize people who work in these industries. They just think of it as a commodity. But you know, I feel like after interacting with this lady and feeling like what she might make of all this, like if I told her about my lifestyle, she'd be like, "Well, you're insane. I have to work this job, the graveyard shift, so I can provide for my kids. That's all that matters, you know." And to some people, that might seem, well, like that's like a really dark, bleak vision of the world. But in reality, what this lady's job, and I'm going to wrap this up real quick because I'm going on about it. But
No, it's good. I'm listening.
This lady's job,
listening, bro.
This lady's job is literally to feed people. What's a CEO's job? What's a broker, like a Wall Street broker, basically a glorified gambler.
Well, a CEO's job is to organize and delegate the things that are happening and
yeah, but you know,
the facilities
without the employees that make the things happen, you have nothing. And the thing that what I realized is that this lady's job is actually really meaningful. She is literally feeding people for a living. That to me is as dignified as anything. So this and so since then, that's what I've learned from this experience. And since then, I came to the conclusion that I'm only going to revere with authority the people that are serving me. Like, let me clarify it. Like waiters, nurses, people that are serving me.
I can see this moment happening, bro. I can see you sitting in the car and the smoke from the joint is like, you're like
yeah, exactly, pretty much from the blunt. I don't smoke and drive, bro.
I'm just kidding. Like, yeah.
But anyway, what I
had a realization.
Well, like, you know, like people are constantly demanding respect.
I don't smoke weed, by the way. I just want you to know. I don't think there's anything wrong with it, but I just don't smoke it. It doesn't agree with me. I get paranoid. It freaks me out.
It depends on the people. Yeah, on the person. But anyway, I have a real problem with authority and people demanding authority or demanding respect. But I realize the only people I would automatically grant reverence and authority are people who are serving me because they are in a position of power. I'm making myself vulnerable, and they are providing something for me, so I owe them a lot of respect. So every time I make a point now, every time that somebody is providing a service for me, I'm like, ma'am, sir, yes, please. Like I revere with authority people who otherwise, for the most part, are marginalized and treated like they owe you something. Like, oh, why are you late? Why didn't you bring my coffee sooner? You know, like this stupid mentality that these people are here to cater to you. Yeah. It's like, no, they are providing a service for you. You owe them the utmost respect. Now, somebody like a boss or somebody like a fucking CEO or somebody like some stupid rich person or a cop, somebody demanding reverence out of you. Maybe a cop is a bad example because there's shades of gray in that profession. But I don't believe in that. I believe that the people that deserve the most reverence and respect are people in the service industry and people who are building roads. I mean, you know, every time I get on 95, you know, because I live over the bridge. I live in Hendricks, and usually I gig here in Riverside and have to cross the bridge at night. There's usually construction over there. I'm like, these people are building the modern day pyramids. These people are building something that's going to stand. These concrete structures are going to outlive us all. And these people are getting $7 an hour. Meanwhile, Hollywood actors are getting paid millions just to play pretend. Like, what kind of world are we living in? So one thing I've learned from sort of indulging that the McDonald's experiment is one thing, is that I encourage everybody to humanize people in the service industry and don't think of them as like dead-end job people or poor them or victimize them. No, they are dignified, upworthy, respectable members of the society that without them, everything else, the bottom would fall out. And if you were to ask me, does an Allstate insurance employee, is it right that they make more money than a McDonald's fry cook? I don't think so. I don't think sitting in a cubicle in air conditioning, getting on Facebook half of the time, and doing computer work that could be easily done by a program or an algorithm, to me, or a white-collar job, rather, is more upworthy or more to be more qualities that are more desirable than somebody working, getting their hands dirty, doing something that's actually providing service that you can actually attain, you know. So that's my 2 cents on that, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, I have. I have thoughts about different parts of what you say about that. I think that you should treat everybody with respect, like off top.
Basic human respect, but not anything above. Like, you know, like I'm talking about people like actors who demand respect.
Yeah,
it's like you don't demand any more respect than anybody.
I don't give respect to people for clout, and I don't give respect to people for fame. I don't give respect to, like, there was once at a time, you know how I told you about those different levels of ignorance, or we can look at it a different way, call it different levels of awakening or learning, whatever. Well, there was a time where, no offense to newscasters, nobody personally, nothing personal, like it's not a personal attack, but my own perspective on newscasters, I used to see them somewhere, and I used to think that, oh wow, it's a newscaster on TV. It's like, you know, now I'm like, what are you guys doing? Like, what do you do? Like, what are you doing? What are you talking about?
Reading a teleprompter, you know.
Yeah, and they, you know, their teeth look a certain way, and their face and their hair, you know. And now I don't see them that way. Yeah. I see them maybe the opposite. I just don't see them that way, and I don't respect people who are wealthy, and wealthy people don't like that a lot of the time. You can't. I don't respect somebody just because they're wealthy.
I grant them the basic level of human respect
that you would
deserve.
give to anybody.
Exactly, but any extra respect has to be earned, and people who are providing for their families, people who might be stuck in a certain social situation, to me, more than help or pity, they deserve empowerment, and they deserve that extra level of respect that to me is worthy of those things that
well, you know, I go through the drive-thru at Dunkin' Donuts because I like their coffee, and sometimes, and you know, I wonder about the person who's working there. How did they get working there? Or I know this guy, he's pretty cool, he works at the Jiffy store. I'm like, how did he get that job? But I've also run into people in the middle of the night coming home from a gig, senior citizens working at some mobile station. This gray-haired man, you know, does he want to be here? Like, maybe he lives around the corner and he doesn't have anything to do. Yeah. And he can't sleep at night, so he's taking the night shift. I don't know. Or maybe he's really struggling and his wife is sick and he's paying medical bills. I mean, I can come up with so many scenarios. And those scenarios, it's like I can drive myself crazy.
Well, see, and here's the justification aspect. I you know, speaking of Dunkin' Donuts, I actually applied to work at Dunkin' Donuts at one point and didn't get the job because I have like very little experience, service industry experience. And the way, you know, like thinking back on it, it's like, what was I thinking? Like,
now you know how to wear headphones, though.
Well, like what was I thinking? It's like, I could work here 40 hours a week and get minimum wage and get nothing. Or I can actually pursue my worth, which is as an artist, and I can make $100 in a night at the least.
Well, whatever you make, though, the thing is this, dude. You're in a different situation mentally. And from the people that we were talking about before, the people that go to those events at the landing, those big events at the landing where everybody goes, because you're thinking, they're not thinking, they see authority outside of themselves, like most people. They don't have their own authority. Who is the hardest person in the world to do something for? Yourself.
Yeah.
You'll do it if your boss tells you. You will work your ass off. You will work 40 hours. You got to stay over 50 hours. For this person doesn't give a shit about you, maybe. if they don't even care about you and you're working your ass off for this person and you're making them money if they own the company or whatever, you know. And but when it comes to you being your own boss and you telling yourself, Goliath, you need to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning and work on this song right here, you know.
And that's why
you're like, you don't have that same authority to yourself.
And that's why I don't make apologies. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
That's all right.
But that's why I don't make, real quick, that's why I don't
it happens all the time.
That's why I don't make, real quick. That's why I don't make apologies for my lifestyle. And I think that's what you're getting at, is that we have earned that privileged position of being able to make a living in our art, because while my friends were at a part, not my friends, but while certain people were at a party or drinking or doing something stupid, I was at home practicing. I was at home studying. Like, I've devoted my life to this thing, and I've put in so much time and effort into it that now to be able to make a living out of it is a direct benefit of that work. I don't get paid as an artist because it just happened overnight and I'm cute and I deserve this money.
You're kind of cute though.
But the reason I do it, the reason I'm able to live this lifestyle is because I've worked really hard for it, you know. And that's the thing that gets overlooked. I don't drink. I smoke weed.
You need to start drinking.
I can't go down that road.
I'm just kidding. I tried being an alcoholic. I couldn't do it. I really tried.
You tried?
I tried. I was like, let's see if I can do this. I can't. I just cannot drink like 2 days in a row. I just can't do that. I can drink beer.
Yeah.
But it's not the same, you know. It's like
different. I mean, to me, having a beer is not really drinking.
I mean, shooting a six-pack down is another story, but having a few beers is...
Especially now that beer's become kind of like wine culture, where you can, like, appreciate one beer as the same way you can appreciate one glass of wine. I can dig that.
Well, I only drink Pilsners, and they're really weak.
Pilsners are really weak?
Pilsners are really weak. But, and they fill you up.
Yeah.
But, man, what were you talking about? I didn't mean to talk about...
Yeah, so you were saying...
my love of beer.
Yeah, you were... I cut you off talking about something about justifying what you do and earning it, and you said you gotta be your own boss.
People that, to me, I had this idea that it shows that people are not solitary islands the way that maybe the libertarian type of mindset might point out or lean towards. To me, it shows that people give somebody else authority because we're a communal people. We're tribal. We're like societal. We're
like chimpanzees. We need the alpha to we need to.
Well,
blaze
it's not
our
that we need an alpha. It's just that I think we're good. We're not like evil, like Adam and Eve, like the Bible says that we're evil.
I agree with that.
I think that we actually want to please other people.
Exactly.
And that is enough incentive to bust your ass for somebody that doesn't even care about you.
Exactly.
So the thing is, in the society where the way that we live in, the society that we live in today, we're kind of forced to turn ourselves into two people and give ourselves authority and care about ourselves. Like, you got to love yourself first and that whole stuff. If society was different, you wouldn't have to worry about any of that, because you would be loving everybody and everybody would be loving you. Yeah. And then every now and then
and I see that too.
Some distant tribe would come and raid your village and kill everybody.
There's some friends that I have that actually.
It's just how life is.
What you said right now is very true. Like, they're very cool people, but then when they have to be professionals, they become somebody else entirely. You know, they become sort of like they relinquish what makes them special in order to fit into this like kind of authoritative or submissive role, either whatever it calls for. And that's just not somebody I want to be. And to me, and again, this goes back to justifying yourself. I was born into this world without my consent, and I'll be damned if I'm going to let anybody tell me how I should live my life. As long as I'm not affecting anybody in a negative way, and I'm just using myself as an example. It could be, I'm saying people in general.
Where are you starting the compound, Andre? When are you going to start? Tell me, I want to go.
The commune or something?
The commune.
I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. I mean,
like the Branch Davidians.
I just don't. I mean, I would love. I mean, like, those things just never work. I don't.
It's a hot topic. That's a hot topic because some people argue why were these people not allowed to live however the hell they wanted to live? Like, you know, it's almost like the government doesn't let anybody be free, really.
They don't.
You
No,
can't
they
just go off
don't.
into the mountains in North Carolina. Some land belongs to somebody somewhere.
Exactly.
And if you start building a little community there, the government's going to kind of be like, hey, what are you guys doing
And that's
there?
a dichotomy, like freedom versus safety, you know. And the government is now like, and I hate the conservative people are gonna love this, but that's the thing I always criticize conservatives. They're all about small government, but yet they all support police and prison and sanctions
And what women can do with their
exactly
bodies.
and
But small
drugs
government.
and what you can do with your own body. Conservatives are telling
Who you can marry.
you're too stupid to take care of your own body and do the drugs you want to do. You can only take the certain drugs we tell you to take. But anyway, that's what I always criticize conservatives about. They say you're for small government. Bull fucking shit. You're rallying for a gigantic fucking police state.
Mm-hmm.
And
It's a very convoluted time right now, man. And it's very especially convoluted because we're aware of how convoluted it is, because there's so much information going around that you have access to. You know, for example, I'll give you an example of something that's convoluted and mixed up. Like, there's so many examples, but you got to talk about one at a time. And one of them is like the way that companies work. Companies have a mixture of capitalism and a type of socialism and a type of communism in them right now, for example. Because right now, people look, if you have a company, what do? You go online and you're trying to get people to like your page, and you're trying to get followers. And I don't care who you are, McDonald's, Clorox, RC. Lust-Ape. Okay, so whatever it is, right?
Exactly.
That's what you're doing. So the money I think the money has become, the currency has become people.
definitely.
So the people numbers are the money now. Like, you're money and I'm the money now. And we're what's being bought and sold between these companies. Now, like, 5 people are profiting. Let's say, for example, WhatsApp. When WhatsApp sold to Facebook, they sold it for $3 billion. I don't know. Right? That had a staff of 25 people.
Okay.
So WhatsApp is comprised of millions, maybe billions of people using the application. Mm-hmm. And, you know, they'll roll out a survey and they'll be like, hey, you guys, help us develop our app better for free. I don't take surveys because I'm like, for free?
For free, no.
You want me to give you this $1 million idea?
Exactly, no.
No. And then, but it's normal. Everybody's like, oh, yeah. Why? Because people are good. Because people want to help each other out.
Exactly.
And so this other element of society takes advantage of that, and they profit from it. And they separate themselves from the rest of society.
That's interesting, because that's scary, because it's like when money came into existence, it was designed to solve a certain problem, right? Money was designed to solve the problem of barter, you know? You can't just carry around a fucking truckload full of goods. You have to have something to equate those goods to, so you can acquire more goods, right? So that's the purpose of money. Now, as we progress, we're outgrowing that system, and thankfully money is becoming obsolete. Money as we know it, you know. Mm-hmm. And now you're saying it's shifting towards the value of numbers of people, right, of followers.
But I don't think that's a good thing. I don't like it. I hate it.
Well, yeah, I'm just saying it could be a great thing, but the same way that when money came about and it was a great idea, as always, a few people figure out how to exploit it and become, like, assert themselves as an authority and control it. Same thing is happening now. You know, like, this idea that worth is democratized now, that now you as an individual can contribute to an idea just by checking it out. Mm-hmm. That's brilliant. But what you're saying is that now the corporate mentality that took advantage of the capital system of the financial sector is now exploiting this other system that's now coming into being, that it has the potential of democratizing goods and services. Mm-hmm.
See, the goal, what it is right now in June 2015, what it is right now is there's a small group of people doing something extraordinary. Let's say they're building a treehouse. And this small group of people, they build this badass treehouse.
Mm-hmm.
The most amazing, whatever you can imagine, the most amazing treehouse that you've ever seen. Right now, the way that things are, it doesn't matter. What matters is how many people saw that treehouse.
Exactly.
So it's like it takes validation. It's all about validation right now.
You're right. No, and that's one problem that I struggle.
It's kind of sad, though.
It is sad.
You know.
But the thing is that there is an audience for a lot of things, but you're right. You know, that's one thing that I struggle with my company, and I don't want to bring in my shit into this now, but
you should. You're the guest in this.
But you know, I feel like every time I talk about it, I sound like such a cocky asshole that I don't know.
You shouldn't worry about it, man. You should just sound like a cocky asshole. Look, if you sound like a cocky asshole, somebody will tell you. I'll tell you.
Yeah, I mean, and again, it raises the question: what's wrong with sounding like a cocky?
Andrew, you sound like a cocky asshole right now.
Well, I could tell you if I do, what's the problem with sounding like a cocky asshole? Mm-hmm. I mean, I guess there's no problem with sounding like a cocky asshole, but I don't know. It's just new to me.
Mm-hmm.
But
that's the name of my band.
Cocky asshole. Yeah, that's a good name. But that's one thing I'm finding with my own company.
That and the First World Mason Jars.
That's good. First World Mason Jars.
Yeah, it's my hipster band. We sound kind of like a cross between
I want to join.
Iron and Wine and...
We should talk about music because at some point, because
Anyway, I keep interrupting you. What are you saying right now? You were going to say something that's going to make you sound...
about the company.
Like a confident young man.
About Elucidate. Or my company. My company is called Rum and Duck, LLC. And my ambition, my true ambition in life is to have the resources to produce every and any idea that I might have at any given day. That's my dream. That's my ambition, to build a company that's going to allow me to pursue all my creative endeavors and hopefully have my endeavors affect people in a positive way, or even if not in a positive way, at least provide them some sort of comfort or some sort of entertainment, or even question them or whatever, or evoke a reaction, you know. So that's my goal. But I've come to find, and again, this is why I love this podcast, this is why, again, I love to talk to my friend Valerie, I come to find that finding people on my boat is tough, is a tough thing. I mean...
It has a lot to do with the city that you live in.
That's true. The geography is definitely work, and that's one thing I told Abigail. The reason why I'm sort of getting the bug in my head to move, which again, you know, I don't think these days really matters where you are, because the internet has sort of brought everybody together in one sense. But I feel like my ambitions as a creator, like, are not those opportunities aren't here for me to pursue in some degree. Like, I'm not going to meet the right people that are going to but maybe this is bullshit. Maybe this is complete bullshit. This is just sentiments that I've had at a certain point. Like, maybe this is not the right place to meet the people that are going to allow me to meet that goal. But maybe it is. I mean, I don't know. But, like, my goal is with this, what I was trying to say is that my goal with this company is to grow my creative endeavors and be able to fulfill them. But I need a community to really support it.
Yeah. That goes back to the kind of the same thing, the theme that we're talking about the boss and approval and doing things for yourself. Why it's so difficult, because we're not an island species.
Yeah.
At least most of us, I don't think.
Yeah.
You know, and the ones that are sociopaths.
Exactly. Does that raise the question that you have to be a little bit sociopathic to have big dreams or something?
Well,
maybe.
You have to. J. Krishnamurti is one of my favorite quotes, maybe my favorite quote of all time. He says, "It is no measure of health to be well adjusted to a profoundly sick society."
Wow, yeah, that's brilliant.
You know, and so you have to be somewhat. You have to make yourself a little bit someone sick if you're going to fit your key in the keyhole. It's got a shape. It's got to resemble a shape, at least a little bit, if it's going to get in there. You know,
it's just fucked up because people are so suppressed. You know what I mean? Like, you say this keyhole, and what just came to my mind was You know, we give people Prozac. We make people into collectivist, like, sheep that we can manipulate. We give them religion to make them submissive to authority. So you are right. In order to fit into this unnatural life that we are expected to fulfill, you have to make people a little bit sick.
There's a documentary that I didn't get. I saw the trailer and I really wanted to watch it, and then I didn't. And I still want to watch it, but it's called like Beautiful Broken, Beautiful something. And if somebody messages me, I'll tell you. I'll find it for you.
Yeah.
But it was really good. It was talking about that. I don't want to make myself fit into your society anymore. This is how I was made. Then the person goes and finds a place where they fit.
Yeah.
Instead of like trying to alter their mind, because being in a corporate situation freaks them out.
Yeah.
And you know
that freaks me out. That to me is the scariest thing. Really, it's almost like a phobia. I'm like terrified.
Everybody's terrified. There's so many terrified people driving to work every day.
Oh, definitely.
And they're terrified about so many things.
Definitely. I'm terrified of having to compromise the ideals that I've worked so hard my whole life to preserve in order to survive. That's my biggest fear. And I know that the position that I'm in today, like we've been talking about, again, going back with the theme, I know I'm afraid that I'm not afraid, but I'm almost certain that it could be transitional. You don't know. I don't know what I'm going to have to do in 5 years. I don't know what circumstances are.
That's what I'm thinking about when I was brought up Dunkin' Donuts. That's what I'm like, that could be me right there.
Yeah.
Look, I do this exercise periodically where I'm driving down the street. I'm driving down the boulevard and I'm looking at a sign and I see a Dunkin' Donuts and I say, "Thank you for calling Dunkin' Donuts. This is Goliath speaking." And then I see an AutoZone. "Hey, thank you for calling AutoZone. This is Goliath speaking."
Right.
And I imagine myself working in there. I imagine myself saying that, somewhere else where I got to say a slogan and then the deal today.
And that's the problem. The problem is not that you would have to work making food or you would have to work doing something else. The problem is that you have to represent this evil fucking faceless juggernauts. And it's almost like the way I visualize it whenever I talk to somebody on the phone or when I first met my friend in the drive-thru. The way I visualize it is that I see this corporation, right? It's like this creature, and it reaches from underneath, and it sticks its hand up these people, and uses them as puppets, and then it talks through these people.
Mm-hmm.
So really,
that's deep, man.
Creepy, deeply terrifying, horrific realization that these corporations are living entities that manifest themselves through real people. That's dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
Because that just dismantles.
So now going back
the
to
superorganisms,
going back to the people and people changing, and those people at those events at the landing, those big events, the 4th of July events, the things that everybody goes to. What's the problem? Like, I'll give you an indication of the problem, and because you have to eventually throw it on the people. You have to eventually throw it on you
mm-hmm.
and me and individuals, because otherwise, where does the responsibility lay? It's not like some corporation exists as some abstract ball in the ether that is not made out of people.
Yeah.
So this is people are cogs in the machine, and this is. I'll give you an illustration. A woman's like, "I saw that movie Blood Diamond. Man, that's so sad. And diamonds are bullshit too, but you just gotta get the diamond. You just gotta, exactly. No, you just gotta. I was raised to want a diamond, or you're like, yeah, I know this company I'm using online. I know they're exploiting, but hey, you just gotta.
Hey, I got one for you right now.
What?
The minerals and the compounds in this are so unethically acquired. I mean, there's child slavery involved in this.
What is that?
An iPhone 6.
Oh, yeah, I don't buy iPhones, Holmes.
Well, I got this for free from Abigail's company. We get them, but this is
Hook it up.
not for long.
I use iPhones now.
Well, this is. I mean, this is a great tool, and that's the thing. That's the problem. And I guess this is a more tangible, way for me to see it. In one sense, it's like I need this because this is a tool for me to create, and a tool for me to communicate, and a tool for me to learn. In order for me to acquire that privilege, some kid somewhere has to jeopardize his life or be exploited or whatever, XYZ. And that's me being like that lady that justifies a diamond. I'm no different. Mm-hmm. Here it is. Here's the proof that I'm no different.
So here's the thing, though. Here's the thing. You can't be perfect.
Oh, yeah.
It's not a cop-out.
Right.
You can't. Like, your feet, your legs are in the river.
Yeah.
You know, it's probably a bad analogy, but you got it on you. You know, but the thing is that you can do more, and other people they can actually easily, and it would benefit them to cut the diamond out.
Definitely, yeah.
You know,
the diamond accomplishes nothing. It's just a stupid rock.
You know, we could sit here, dude, and talk about 10,000 more things that people can cut out. You know, it would actually be beneficial for them, and it would be good all around.
I got something deep to say right now about diamonds. Hmm? Diamonds are made of carbon. You know what else is made of carbon? Life. Mm-hmm. So, why would you value a lifeless rock over an intangible carbon-based entity that is an experiencing being that interacts with the world? That to me
it's because it's a cultural value.
It's a stat, like the apes. It's like the apes.
Yeah, like gold.
Yeah.
Like, you know, the Aztecs, they would fucking give you all their gold. They don't give a shit about gold.
Yeah. They
cared about copal, and they cared about jade.
Jade, yeah.
You know, and the gold, you can have it. Take it. I don't care. You know, it doesn't mean anything.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Even today, it doesn't mean anything.
It's part of our chimpanzee programming to, like, acquire things, and here, this makes me stand out. You know, I'm now a distinguished member of the pack. You know,
well, since we're talking about diamonds, the diamond thing is engineered, which is even more infuriating.
Oh yeah, and they
engineered through Marilyn Monroe.
I mean, that's like a whole conversation. They're like, they speculate on diamond worth by withholding.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, the whole thing from the very beginning is engineered.
Yeah, exactly.
But the point is that people where one of the crux of the problem is that people don't act on information when they get it. For example, I do it as often as I can. You can ask my wife, you can ask anybody. I am really about what I'm about. You know, when I say, if I see that I can do something about it, and I see that I can or eliminate it or refrain from it, you know, because you also have to be careful to not let perfection ruin a good thing.
I agree with that too.
You know what I'm saying? You're like, oh, you tell somebody, hey man, public transportation, you want to save it in the city, you should take the bus to work. Immediately they think that they should take the bus to work every day of the week. I didn't say that. I just said you should take the bus to work.
To do it sometime.
You can do it once a week. You can do it once a month. And if everybody did it once a month or everybody did it once a week, you see what I'm saying?
It would be a significant difference.
Yeah. So
yeah,
that's like one aspect of it. So you can't let perfection get in the way of a good thing. Like, oh, I messed up. It wasn't perfect.
Exactly.
So you're not perfect. Big deal. So keep going. Keep changing things. You know, as you learn that this is good or this is not good or not beneficial or not.
Yeah, and that's another thing that you said earlier that I really agreed with. You're talking about different pockets of ignorance. Mm-hmm. I think that's another thing that's important to realize, besides asking yourself whether your life belongs to you or who does it belong to, kind of a thing. Modern day slavery, I guess we would call it. Self-enslavement through societal pressure, I guess. I don't know. Another question you should ask yourself is, what did you say? What were you saying? Say it again.
Where I was talking
ignorance.
about,
Ignorance. You should assess the fact that you are going to remain in ignorance your whole life, because there's more than one lifetime's worth of information of anything. Pick anything, and there's more than a lifetime's worth of information. So the minute that you realize that you're going to be clouded in ignorance most of your life is the moment that you're going to start seeing the possibilities of how you can make a difference. It's if you acknowledge that from the get-go you will remain ignorant of 90% of all things, and that and if you can gain headway in becoming a fraction of if you can diminish a fraction of that ignorance every day, even though it's a never-ending process.
Yeah, elevate, chip away.
Exactly. You are going to be fulfilled as a human being. You're going to be enriched, and that's what another thing I guess I would encourage people to not be as goal-driven as much as journey-driven. Anybody who succeeds because they enjoy the pursuit more than they enjoy the end result. Like for me, for music, I enjoy the act of learning I enjoy practicing. Mm-hmm. I enjoy doing etudes. I enjoy reading music. I enjoy learning things about music, not because I want to be a better guitar player, even though that's certainly the end result. It ultimately will be, hopefully. But the reason I do it is not because I want greatness or because I want to be good. It's because I legitimately enjoy the endeavor or the journey of pursuing this in this case, music. Same thing with visual arts. I don't draw because I want greatness. I draw because I legitimately I'm interested in that pursuit. So I would tell anybody to adopt, because it's worked for me, and I'm just saying work for me in terms of my happiness. I'm not saying that what I'm saying is an absolute truth. I'm just saying this is what worked for me and what makes me a happy individual. Is accept your ignorance, and then indulge and dwell into the pursuit of conquering that ignorance, and not focus so much on what the outcome of you overcoming or of learning something or acquiring a certain skill. Yeah,
man. People are too afraid of failing too. They're too afraid of failure. They're too afraid of how they look. They're too afraid of how.
Well, you know, yeah,
people are afraid of success too. People are afraid of everything.
Yeah. Let me tell you something.
People are afraid of their neighbors.
I feel like people talk about looks. You'd bring up looks. I feel like my physical state, and this is a big argument that I have with my friends actually, because we're all pretty like-minded cats, but we kind of have this. This is where I differ, in one sense. I feel like I legitimately feel that all our consciousness is similar enough that we're really just a subjective experience of the same thing, basically. Mm-hmm. And I feel that, and I guess I might be rambling on here, but I feel like men and women, I feel like your gender doesn't define you in one sense. I feel like who you are in the inside, when you are you at your truest form.
I know what you're talking about. I'm a man.
Yeah, but when you're playing guitar, you're not a man. When you're
man's man.
When I'm painting, I'm not a man. When I'm painting, I am an entity expressing itself.
Yeah.
When I'm playing guitar, I'm not a male guitarist. I'm an entity experiencing the instrument. So I would say at the deepest core, we are all the same sort of being, And a lot of people don't agree with me. They say, well, we're all different. But yeah, we're all different. But I think it's important to focus on how much we're the same.
Have you ever seen the short story called The Egg? Mm-mm. It's I won't get into it. It's too long because you have to experience it. But I'm just checking if maybe you've seen it. You might know the title of it. It's a story about a guy who dies and he left a wife and a kid behind, and he meets God.
No, I never heard of that.
No. I'll share it with you.
Yeah, send it to me. Yeah. Actually, how are we on time?
We have I guess we have about an hour left.
So we're at the 2-hour mark?
No. Well, I'm trying to cut it down because doing 3 hours as an upload is a pain in the ass.
I see. So we're at the 1 hour mark?
No, we're at 1:35.
Okay, cool. Can I use the restroom real quick? Can I take?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm gonna play the guitar for people.
All right, cool.
See, that's why I don't drink a lot of water.
I forgot my guitar, man. I should have.
I don't have any right-handed guitars in here. How crazy is that? I don't run into that problem really. Last time I sang a song about boobies.
Let's talk about music.
You know, there was something you're talking about.
Hello? Okay, back.
Yeah, we'll talk about music. But there was something you were talking about when we were talking about the... What were we talking about before we stopped right now?
About...
We don't remember.
being ignorant and accepting of ignorance and...
Well... Yeah, so anyway, it doesn't matter. I
day.
don't remember what it was, but you can't cover everything that you want to say. Like, you just can't. It's impossible. You know, and yeah, so we can talk about music. The thing is, it wasn't terribly important. It wasn't terribly important, but it was something that has to do with it.
Damn.
I would end it with my perspective with that you have to eventually put the responsibility on the people, and you have to figure out how to do that. As a creative energy,
yeah,
I have to figure out how to put the responsibility on other people, you know. And ultimately, no matter what you have around you, what digital devices you have around you, and what things you have on your body, you're always going to be somebody who needs to eat, and you need friends, and you're going to need to drink water, and this is really what matters.
The basics,
you know?
the basics.
And you need some nature, and you need, you know.
Yeah, I agree with that.
You know, and
then just have a community that supports you. That's the most important part, I feel like. And that's again another problem. And we talked about this. Touched on last time we talked. We focused on this a little bit, but the fact that this modern world that we live in, the norm does not focus on community. So much so that cops don't operate within their own community. Neighbors don't know each other. You know, you work in this like 9 to 5 kind of office job where you just don't build any real kind of connection with anybody, and it's kind of really bizarre. I mean, and this is my perception from an outsider's view. Maybe it's different when you're in there, but that's kind of my biggest fear, to wind up in that environment, because I feel like and this might be my ego talking, but I feel like what I can contribute to the world, if I'm left to my own devices, is far greater than what I can contribute doing a corporation's bidding, you know. So,
you know, so one thing when we were talking about earlier, you mentioned that you always check yourself and your progress and where you're at in your mental state, right? I think about that too. And, you know, as I get older, I think about, when is that day going to be where I'm the dude watching Fox News and I don't realize I'm out of touch anymore? Or I'm not updating myself with a new app.
Yeah.
Right. But there's hope, because I might never be that person. Because if you have that habit of constantly checking yourself, which is intellectually honest, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, as an intellectual, it's intellectually honest to always check and question your own ideas and your conclusions.
I do it constantly.
You have to be willing to question your root assumptions.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, you have to be willing to, whatever those root assumptions are, however much attachment you have to be willing to let them go. And
that's why I like to talk to Christians a lot, because I tell them,
this goes back to the diamonds. This goes back to the bullshit stuff. This goes back to the cars. This goes back to all these things. This goes back to the kind of clothes that you buy, you know. And the answer is not make things that are more expensive, you know, here at home. Just find a different way to do everything. Like not, because now, so organic food is out of reach for people who don't have any money.
Yeah, exactly. Definitely.
And how the fuck did that happen? Because organic food was organic, and then people
organic,
changed it, and now it's more expensive.
Nutrition in general is not accessible to people. Not even just organic, but just the ability to eat a balanced diet on a schedule. That's not an attainable. That's the information to fulfill those needs is not readily available. You have to pursue it. So it starts with the information. And that's something that I admit to my complete ignorance in that, because my friends are all artists, and you know what comes with the artsy fartsy crowd is pussy. Yeah, it's a constant like pursuit of like organic food and locally raised and all these. You know what I'm talking about? All these artisan crafted
Benjamin Franklin light bulb.
Exactly.
First world mason jars.
Exactly. So, and so in that culture, it's sort of like frowned upon to talk about things like eating GMO food and going to Walmart and so on and so forth. But I'm
if you have the luxury to not go to Walmart,
exactly. But I ask myself, like, what is the I don't care about truth, but what are the facts? It's like Indiana Jones. It's not truth, but facts. What are the facts about organic food and genetically engineered food? What are the facts about, like, actual facts about nutrition and what makes sense for the human body? Well, if
facts is facts and tings, man.
Well, here's a fact: the human body is extremely adaptable, and it will adapt. It'll metabolize whatever is put into it to survive. Whatever you eat, if you do it constantly enough, your body will assimilate those properties and adapt to a lifestyle to keep you alive. So I know that as a fact.
What about the light bulbs? What about the Benjamin Franklin looking light bulbs? Do those give more light?
I don't know.
Do they save energy?
I don't know.
What about the font that everybody's using? What's up with that font?
The Helvetica New?
I don't know. That Hawker's font. That
font, yeah.
That font.
Yeah,
I saw a really cool graphic designer. He made a parody of all the different fonts.
I hate it, man.
And he made like different labels.
And that's one problem that I have in that world, is that I hate this sort of like clean, sterilized kind of look to things that I guess like
everything was a slaughterhouse.
Now?
Yeah, like I walked into a Five Guys. Honestly, I think Five Guys was the first person to throw out that kind of a font, even though it's not related to the movement.
Right.
And then I thought it was like, is this the slaughterhouse in here? It's all tiled along the wall.
Right.
Really, they're killing cows in there. You know?
Like it's almost like a posh industrial, like industrial chic.
Yeah.
With like a sterilized, kind of clean, minimalist kind of vibe thrown in there with like handmade, crafty, and like it's like this weird.
Yeah, man. I have a conspiracy theory about fashion. I have a conspiracy theory that the companies don't ever let anything go to waste because they just get somebody cool, or they make a movement. They get somebody cool to wear whatever didn't sell the last season. For example, you know those checkery shirts, those checkery whatever you call them, plaid, whatever. If that's what it is, like 6 years ago, you couldn't fucking pay people to take one of those home. Like, they would not wear those shirts. Those shirts were the shirts that were not selling. The shirts with the cowboy...
Texas kind of shirts.
Yeah, they were not selling, man. Like, and that was like the big checkered shirts, just two colors. Those were not selling either. You know, there was all these shirts that were being made and not selling. And then, so look at what's not selling right now. And then when the next, like, thing happens, like, you'll see... this is a theory. I don't know. I haven't proved it yet. But
I mean, I don't doubt it. I mean, I'm.
Oh, you know what I was telling you about earlier about there's hope as I age and as people age and for not becoming that person who's stuck in the mud.
That's what we were talking about.
Yeah, but I'm saying the hope is people like Noam Chomsky. Noam Chomsky is like 90 years old.
Yeah,
and he's still sharp, man.
See, but even him, I feel like I've heard him I've heard him say some pretty non-objective things too. I feel like I've questioned his.
Well,
his
yeah,
point of view, you know?
nobody's going to be perfect in their logic.
No,
There's
you're right.
Yeah.
No one, yeah.
You know, and you're going to have feelings about this or that, and, you know, and you might just say something the wrong way.
Exactly.
Like, oh, that's not what I meant. Like, that happens to me all the time.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Yeah.
English is my second language. People don't realize that. My English is
Me
better
too.
right now than it's ever been. And I didn't even really learn how to write well until 2007.
Wow.
You know.
Yeah, English is my second language as well, but it's pretty much become my first language as I aged. Because I learned it at such a young age. But
Here's another thing, bro. This is, I don't mean to go off topic, but I kind of do. But we don't have to talk about it. But you know, we're on the internet right now, and people got this from the internet. At least I think they did, unless your friend burned you a CD. My daughter's gonna be like, "What's a CD?" one day.
Yeah.
But sometimes I think that the internet is the most debilitating and destructive thing to my creativity.
You think so?
I think so.
Dang. Why? Elaborate. Why?
Because it fills the void of like where the inspiration goes. It fills the void of where the work for finding inspiration goes. I can like get on Tumblr and like it does it for me. I can get on Tumblr and just like look at all these pictures and be like, okay, like that artistic muscle is done.
Wow.
I'm done with Tumblr. I get on Tumblr. It doesn't inspire me.
I've never been to Reddit or Tumblr.
Okay,
or any of that stuff.
one picture might inspire me, or one painting might inspire me, but 5,000 paralyzes me.
I see.
You know, I'm like, what? You know, that kind of thing. And the music, I've never listened to music less. Ever since the more popular the MP3 has become, the less I listen to music.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Like, I don't like the sound quality. I did this test on
hate the sound
NPR.
quality of it too.
I did this test on NPR. I got all of them but 2 correct. You know, WAV file, MP3, and all I had to do was pay attention to what annoyed my ear.
Yeah.
I didn't even have to pay attention to the sound quality or whatever. I was like, you know.
Yeah.
And but that's part of it. That's part of it. But the other part of it is that there's so much music available. I don't have any experience with it anymore. And I don't know if it's going to be just me and my generation.
You don't develop a relationship with the music.
Yeah, it's just a different kind of a relationship. It's a relationship of flipping pages in a phone book instead of looking for a treasure in the ground
That's
somewhere.
I mean, I guess I'll shed a little bit of light on my.
Because we're talking about music now.
Yeah, good. I'll shed a little bit of light on my experience with the internet and how I interact with it, especially as it relates to music. I don't have a Facebook. I have a Facebook for Lust Ape, which I've given up on trying to get people to like it because I don't really care. But there's that. I have a Twitter and I have
You should do a rant on there.
A rant
on Lust Ape. I mean, on your Facebook.
My Facebook.
Yeah, you should be like, let me do it for you. You should be like, fuck you guys. You guys say you're my friends. You guys are not really my friends.
Oh.
You guys are not there for me.
Leave Brittany alone.
And do it at 2:30 in the morning. And make it long and don't punctuate.
And you get 1 million hits on that shit. Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Everybody will share it and see it.
Well, and that's what kind of upsets me. Like, I've got tired of posting content on there and it getting bypassed, but then looking at people's like stupid like moral posts about making themselves like somebody will post like some like
moral posturing,
some sort of article about something, and then they'll put their 2 cents about it, and then the entire community goes in uproar about it.
I've said it like 100 times, and the first person who said it was Julian Assange. Was that people use Facebook primarily to display their moral values to their peers.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
But back to internet.
Yeah.
So the main social media and website or community that I participate in, more than Instagram and Twitter, which I do only out of necessity because
hang on. And if you don't know who Julian Assange is,
WikiLeaks, you're
part of the problem right now. If you don't know who Jacob Applebaum is, you're part of the problem right now. You need to figure out who these people are.
Edward Snowden.
Edward Snowden. If you don't know who Edward Snowden is, You're part of the problem. You probably have a diamond on your finger.
The National Defense Authorization Act.
If you don't, what is that?
Oh, man, well, look that up. Everyone, you should look up the National Defense
You got me, brother. You got me. You got me. No, okay, I didn't mean to. Okay, go back to...
Okay. So, I use Twitter and Instagram out of my phone just to promote Lost David, my company. And I really don't I don't connect with it because I did the Twitter thing because somebody told me it was a smart business move to do. So I did it, and then they told me one thing that you do in Twitter is that you start following a bunch of people, and then you gain followers and whatever, and you post and whatever. But it's very impersonal. I feel like I follow people, and then I get all these like ghost messages like, "Thank you for following so and so. Check out my website." So it's not like I'm not really interacting with these people. I'm just getting some like fictional response. So I don't really like that. But anyway, the one... It's
like that aspect, if you use Twitter correctly, it's kind of like... it's like if you're... you have a balloons at a circus, at a fair, and you have a bunch of darts in your hand, and there's only like, I don't know, like 50 balloons on that board. It's like if you throw a bunch of darts and a couple of them are going to hit.
Exactly. That's what it seems like.
Yeah.
But the main one is YouTube and Google Plus. And I'm going to tell you right now, I credit YouTube in particular with pretty much like at least 50% of my development as a musician. Because one thing that I've always been interested in since I started doing music was really old music. And I love that, like we talked about, you called me an ethnomusicologist, just of sorts. I've always been really interested in that, and
I've called you other names too, bro.
Okay, that's but
what'd you just call me? I said you're an ethnomusicologist.
So yeah, that's one thing that YouTube has become a window into the past, and it's allowed me to create my own vision, or at least come up with pillars, not vision, but come up with certain pillars for my narrative for the music that I enjoy. So, like, for instance, one week right now, I'll give you an example of what I'm into right now in this moment. I've been really getting into music from 1900 through, like, 1912. Like, that era where American music was yet to be defined by genres, and there's, like, all kinds of different stuff was coming out. And I've been really into. So I pick a theme. Okay, black string bands or ragtime banjo, right? Mm-hmm. And I can go on YouTube and I can use it as some sort of library catalog or whatever, and I can type in ragtime classic banjo, right? And I get hits, and in that page I get either the number of people that are aficionados of whatever I'm looking for, and they're playing this music, so I get to check out how they do it and and then through their links, it takes me to a rabbit hole to their sites and how they discover these kinds of music. Mm-hmm. So it gives me those results, and then it also gives me recordings, like an archive of recordings of this music that I can now tap into at any given time for free. So for me, as a quote-unquote ethnomusicologist, it is a starting grounds for an immense amount of research. Now, it doesn't end at YouTube. YouTube is not how I get my foresight. YouTube is just whenever I start a certain endeavor or become really interested in something, that is where I first go to, because that's where I can find either video archive footage, which is very important. I mean, it's limited because video footage has only been around for virtually 100 years. So now I have that accessible to me. And pair that up with, the Library of Congress website, which is excellent, and different sources. So
you're using it as a source of inspiration and a research tool?
Basically.
Okay.
And well, the research is only done so I can feed my own creative voice and incorporate certain elements into my voice. But it all comes from a place of legitimate interest in piecing this narrative, Mm-hmm. And when it comes to in this case, we're talking about music. But let's say one week I like, for instance, I was listening to a podcast or to a story on NPR when I was driving over here about GEDs and programs that are set up to help adults get their GED, and they're kind of like set up like public schools where there's like a cafeteria and a lunchtime, and they focus really strongly on math. And as I was listening to this, I was thinking to myself, I am not as strong on math as I should be, like in basic arithmetic. Like I still struggle with like percentages to a certain degree. So now, from that idea that I started with that radio show, now I can go on the internet, I can go on YouTube, and start developing the intuition, or like that not intuition. I can start developing that a way to remedy that situation. I can say, okay, well, I definitely need to work on my math. So now I start on YouTube. I look up, okay, basic steps to becoming a better at arithmetic.
Wait, is this hypothetical, or are you really working on your math?
No, I mean, as of now, I just thought about it in the car, and and the thought came to me of actually doing this.
Yeah.
And like I said, YouTube is a big tool that I use. Mm-hmm. So that's where I would start. I would go, okay, now I'm going to YouTube. You start out at very rudimentary level math that you can acquire. You can look it up on YouTube, and from there, I build upon it and say, well, maybe I can look at a Harvard class that's been recorded, or I can look at some minute physics video or whatever, Mm-hmm. Or, I mean, that's just an example, but the point is that YouTube and the internet in general, the tools, my interaction with the internet has been so positive because my relationship with it is like college. Mm-hmm. I view the computer as a way for me to develop relationships mm-hmm. with people who are dead. Like for instance,
you will, with ideas and concepts and art and all the stuff that the internet was really supposed to be for.
Well, I'll tell you what. Like people say, well,
it's not until very recently that it became a social thing.
Yeah, exactly. And people criticize me because they're like, well, you're missing out the part where you go to college as an experience because you get mentors and so on and so forth. And I tell them, listen, I have mentors. Because I don't know them personally doesn't mean that they're not my mentors. Like, I've developed a relationship with certain people through their work.
Yeah.
I'll give you an example. There's this professor that I listen to.
Do you have to defend when you expand the definition of a word like that? Do you have to defend that?
A lot of times.
Really? That has a lot to do with your community where you're in.
Yeah. And I'll give you another example. I'll give you an
I'm just kidding, you. Come on, stop it. I'm just kidding. Don't be mad at me. White people,
exactly. Well,
because ethnicities are. I take that back. People from other. You got to be so careful with the words you use, man. People from other cultures are more open to the artistickery of language.
Yeah.
You see what I just did there?
Exactly. People don't think abstractly, and that's a problem.
Like, you know what I meant, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's a problem that I encounter in life.
Yeah.
I think very abstractly of things, and people don't go with me there, so that I'm often misunderstood. But anyway, back to YouTube. There's this professor that I listen to, Barry Harris. He's a jazz instructor, world-renowned educator. And I listen to his lectures online, and I listen to him play, and I find great sources of inspiration from him. So I would call him my mentor. I have developed a relationship with him through his work. And now you might say, well, you don't know him personally, but yeah, his personal life is probably the part that is the most toxic. I don't want that influencing me. I don't want his opinions on politics or his actual person or how funny he is. I mean, that's cool too. You might get to know somebody that you respect and you develop a bonding moment with them. But when it comes to learning, for me personally, my learning style, that gets in the way. I need to develop a relationship with my mentor's work. And for that reason alone, the internet has become a very, very, very strong educational tool for me.
Right now, the internet for many people, including the people in my family, is Facebook. That's the internet.
I can't believe it.
It's true. It's true. Like that is like 90% of the internet for them. Like
it's a monopoly.
80%. Yeah, well, there's a business right now because there's so much coming at you. This is separate from my last statement, but there's so much coming at you that there's actually a business. You can maybe start a small business geared towards curating information, which is kind of like what a website like Reddit does.
Right.
It curates the information based on votes. You can vote up or you can vote down.
See, but that's the problem. If I were to do something like that with the stuff that I'm interested in, there's no way it could compete with things like Miley Cyrus or the hottest topical, the hottest topic of the day that people are like I'll use as an example somebody in the community that is very well revered, somebody like Shelton Hall. You know, he posts something.
Who's that? I'm just kidding.
He posts something. There we go, anonymous. He posts something, and immediately his because of who he is and the kind of things that he posts, because they're relevant and topical, immediately he's going to get a certain response. But if I were to make my page devoted to, you know, music from the turn of the century or racism as the origins of media, that's a fucking topic that I'm interested in. Mm-hmm. Or I don't know, Latin American history or something, or whatever, XYZ. If I were to put something that I was interested in and make a blog of it or make a page, there is absolutely no way it could ever compete against Shelton Hall, because the headlines aren't on my side. It's a niche place, but the internet is a perfect place to find those niche people who be interested in those niche situations. It's if what Shelton Hall's posting is topical, then it's ephemeral, because it's going to be, the news is not going to matter tomorrow. But the history of something, you can leave that page there, and over years it'll get hits. Hits. You know, like if you write a good article, if you do make a good painting, you write a good piece of art. You know. And that's the thing too. Like one thing that I found on YouTube, you know how I said it's like my own YouTube and Google Plus, since they're connected, that's like my social media. I find that the things that I comment on, and the things that the community that I sort of try to find, is, for one, very niche, two, very old, and three, not interested in integrating itself to popular culture. So already, like, and also not only that, but are things that popular culture purposely runs away from. Like I said, the racist roots of media. Mm-hmm. That's something that people don't want to address ever, by any means. People avoid that topic at all costs. Mm-hmm. So I feel like, I mean, maybe today I'm discouraged, and I feel like my voice in the internet is pretty much lost. But
no, it's pretty much lost.
Pretty much lost. Completely lost.
But so is everybody else's.
Exactly. But it has a weird effect on me, because it doesn't make, as opposed to making me feel integrated, it gives me a deep sense of isolation, and that's probably the one negative thing I can say about the internet.
Well, dude, you know, I hate to say it, but that website again, Facebook, you can just go look it up. Psychology studies, sociological studies. It makes people depressed, that fucking website.
Facebook?
We can talk about why and how and the mechanisms and what, and there's algorithms and whatnot, and just the way and what it's flourishing.
It's like TV.
But if I were to get spiritual about it, you think about how the thing was made in a room by a guy by himself, who I suspect felt socially inferior, because he was not being invited to these frat parties, according to the movie anyway.
Right.
You know, and so it carries that energy to this day with it, because it was constructed and designed in a way from a perspective of somebody who was making fun of girls, called a website called Face Smash.
Right.
And you'd make fun of people's pictures,
right,
and you'd judge them, you know, and that's still carries that energy with it,
yeah,
you know, and you know,
the power of ideas is a crazy thing, man.
You know, another thing that's happening with the internet is that the way that people are helping to construct the internet right now, with the people being the currency and the numbers being what matters, as opposed to the content and the level of the content, the duration of the content, is that people are helping to construct the internet based off of surveillance.
Oh, yeah.
Off of snooping on each other and knowing everything about each other, when the internet doesn't have to be constructed based on that. It doesn't have to be, hi, my name is Goliath Flores, and I'm here on the internet, and this is me
It's turning everybody into celebrities with paparazzis and tabloids.
Bullshit
basically.
celebrities.
Yeah,
So nobody
exactly.
gives a shit
Nobody
about
gives
each
a shit.
other.
Nobody gives
You
a
know,
shit.
so I don't know how long it's going to run this course. I don't know how long it's going to. Maybe it'll be forever. Some people think, people who have stock in certain companies, they'll be like, I hope it goes on forever, right?
Well, what would you say about somebody like me who has benefited greatly from? I mean, I can't afford a college education, but the fact that the internet has democratized that and allowed me to take my education into my own hands and been empowered by it, would you say that that's a majority of the population, or would you say that I'm an isolated incident? Or
No, there's people who have used the internet the way that you're using it. You know, like myself. You know, I've educated myself using the internet. There comes a point where you tap out, though. Well, for what I wanted to study. Yeah. And meaning that you have to go to the next level, and then you have to start contributing content and not just taking it in.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and most people on the internet are content consumers.
Consumers, yeah.
The vast majority of people. My wife told me not to say that word, vast majority. She says, because it's passe now, and you look like whatever. Fuck you guys.
Well, and that's one thing I've learned too. I've always felt like, why? How am I ever going to succeed when there's probably, or definitely, over millions of people trying to achieve what I'm trying to achieve? But
you mean about the writing, about the historical writings about the music?
No, I mean in terms of my creative endeavors.
Okay.
You know, like there's many people lots of people want to be able to fulfill their creative needs and have an audience, you know, and be able to fulfill them in a way that is tangible, you know, and people do it and they pay a great price for it, you know.
Well, it's just like, I don't know what the hell's going on right now, man. Like, I don't know.
See, and I really appreciate that point of view, because most people you run into, and tell me if you find this true, I have a song that I wrote a while back called "The Older I Get, the More I Don't Know Shit." It's like a funny little joke song I wrote for myself. I don't really sing it out, but it's just for fun. And I find that to be true. I feel like the more people you encounter out there in the world are trying to put the facade on that they know they have some sort of some sort of certainty they're trying to offer. But the fact that you're sitting here when we agree upon the idea that we don't know what the fuck's going on. Like, we're trying to make sense of this.
Yeah, it's a spiritual growth.
It's honest. It's an honest.
Yeah, it's a spiritual growth
to
admit that you don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't know what's so hard about that for so many people, especially bosses and whatnot.
Especially males. It's a male thing, man.
I don't even know if it is anymore. Look, in certain ways, I'm kind of out of touch because I've been an artist for like 15 years.
It's a testosterone thing. I mean, it's like, it's part of the mammalian brain. The male, being the fucking provider that he is, has to exert a certain level of confidence that fools females into thinking that I'm a safety net. I am an all-knowing entity, and you are safe with me. And gather around the females. I'm the alpha.
Yeah, that's some TV bullshit, man.
Well, dude, that's just. I mean, that's another thing that I've observed.
That's where people learned it. I think.
I just honestly, I've learned to see people in my own behavior. I've learned to see social behaviors as animal interactions. And once you start seeing that, it's a really creepy realization, because you start seeing motives. All the bullshit that comes out of your mouth, your personality, the things that you do, all become boiled down to a very, very marginal, demeaning, kind of insignificant point. It becomes like for instance, I'll put it this way: me doing this, talking into this, is no different than a dog pissing on a tree. I'm trying to leave my mark. I'm trying to preserve my very limited existence on this earth. A very mammal-driven instinct. And again, this causes me trouble in life. But
I mean, everything I do, I'm doing it because I want to affect things, and
preserve your own existence.
And it's popular. I don't even know if I give a fuck about that, honestly.
Yeah.
I mean, when's the last time I made an album? Like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Like I've worked on a soundtrack and I worked on some movies.
But the day that you feel like making a record that's personal, you'll do it, though.
Yeah. Yeah, now with Luna in my life, I think about things in a different way. More, I want to leave something
A legacy. You start thinking of legacy. Yeah.
Well, I started thinking about I want to have something good, something pretty, something nice
to remember you by it. And that's what I told one day I told my wife, because husbands and wives have certain conversations, that maybe girlfriends and boyfriends don't have, and one of those conversations is, what are you going to do if I die? That's a very realistic conversation to have, because listen, the world is crazy. You could die at any given moment, And I told my wife, you don't have to worry about that, because for one, I don't really sell my work because I think it's worth more in my hands than anybody else's. I think that what my work belongs to you and whatever children we have together. I'm talking to my wife right now. Mm-hmm. My work is my patrimony to my family in one sense. Maybe monetary in one sense, because that worth. I mean, I could sell my portfolio for. Somebody told me this. If somebody wanted to buy my portfolio for $5,000, and I needed $5,000 to make ends meet, I still wouldn't do it, because that $5,000 that portfolio could be what's the word? It's priceless. Mm-hmm. There's nothing else like it in the world. So the potential value of that portfolio is unmeasurable beyond monetary, because there'll never be anything like it, because there'll never be another me unless in another dimension. Dude,
the value of art is bullshit, dude.
It's bullshit.
It is bullshit.
The pricing of it. Yeah.
But I mean, you charge whatever the fuck you want to charge.
Whatever.
Hey, you have whatever. Let's say take your best piece. $20,000.
Oh, people will pay for it.
Yeah, and if they don't, who cares?
Who cares? Exactly.
It's $20,000.
But I don't. I mean, people think I'm crazy, but I don't sell my I sell copies of it, but I don't sell the originals. Mm-hmm. But what I told my wife is, and going back to the legacy thing, if I die, don't worry, because wherever you see my handwriting, wherever you see my mark, wherever you hear something I've recorded, wherever, I'll be there. I'm there. I'm in existence. My particular neural patterns and configurations, the electrical flickers of my thoughts are engraved in these images and in this collection of sounds and in these writings. Mm-hmm. So even if I die, you are very privileged, because you have the fortune of knowing that even though I might physically die,
even if I die by getting burned and then drowned right before I die,
you can have exactly. She can have a dialogue. She can have an interaction with me. She can further develop a relationship with me through my work, the same way that I've developed a relationship with artists that I revere, and they've become my mentors. My wife can continue to develop a relationship with me after I die, based on my work. Mm-hmm. and engage me, and that's my legacy, and that's why I feel fulfilled as a human in one sense.
Yeah, I had a spiritual growth that might not be healthy. It's a spiritual growth. Maybe it's a spiritual boil, spiritual wart. I got a spiritual. Can you get a spiritual wart? No, but for example, I came to a place where I didn't care about my legacy. I didn't care. I realized that everything was temporary. I realized that you're temporary.
Everything is temporary. Yeah.
My daughter, my wife, everything.
It's like that poem, Ozymandias. You heard that poem?
No. What is that?
I can't recite. It's an amazing poem. Look it up. It's about a pharaoh, right? And he accumulates all this power, and he is, the king of kings.
How old is the poem?
I think it's Mary Shelley.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think. Mm-hmm. But it's I think it's a romantic era thing, and the poem is about Ozymandias, king of kings. But then at the end, the poem is about how, no matter how powerful he became in lifetime, at the end of the day, all that remains is the ashes of his empire. All that remains is stone and dirt. Nothing that he ever built ever really amounted to anything. Mm-hmm. So I think that's a very profound poem.
One of the best things that somebody's ever said is, another thing is Maya Angelou. I don't remember it exactly, but this is the point of it, is people will forget what you said. People will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel.
That's true.
And I thought, when I first heard that, I'm like, bullshit. That's bullshit. I thought about it.
That's, as an artist, That's why we're so powerful, and I
You
believe
make impressions on souls.
exactly. I believe being an artist is like being a magician.
Yeah.
You're a wizard. You're manipulating people's emotions.
You look up I think the word magic and music are connected. Mm-hmm. Yeah, magic, music, meditation. Somewhere etymologically.
Music is the only. If you ask me if I've ever witnessed a miracle, the only miracle I've ever witnessed, and I witness it, I'm going to witness it tonight, hopefully, is when music is really working. When all the ingredients lock in. And this only happens when you're playing with people, when you're playing in a group, in a collective setting. When all the things come together, is a miraculous
Yeah, and
event.
you start talking in this invisible language, and how did you know I was going to stop there?
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
It's an invisible language.
You could feel it, what's going on, yeah. And, art and music, to survive the way that things are right now, in art and music, commercially, if you don't sell a painting for $20,000 every whatever, and is constant exposure to people, and there's certain mediums on the internet that are better than others, and like me, I'm trying to think as expansively as possible because my community is haters. Because I very little is going to come back to me from here. Like, and it's not, I'm not saying they're hating on me, but people just don't care. Like, I think I'm doing some amazing stuff live, and people are just like, whatever, fuck ever.
They don't care.
They're like, whatever. And, I'm like, okay, that's cool. I'm still getting paid.
It's discouraging, yeah.
And, well, no, it used to be discouraging. Now my skin is pretty thick.
Tough, yeah.
Yeah, with that. And,
but there's something to be said about a great performance. Like, it's the audience and the band are equal parts of importance. A great audience makes a great
There's
performance.
an energy loop there.
Yeah.
There's something that's beyond scientific knowledge that is going on right there.
An interaction.
That you would try to break it down in scientific text and it would sound ridiculous.
Completely. And unless you've been in that situation, and that's, my friend, I don't want to say my friend, but people have called me out. It's like, well, you just, man, you're so lucky. You just get to play music and, I have to scrub toilets or whatever. But it's like, dude, there's an immense amount of pressure on you when you're up there. It's physically, it's physically and mentally demanding to put yourself in that situation where it's very vulnerable. You have to entertain a crowd or else you're not going to get that job again. Yeah. It's a lot of pressure, man. Yeah. And you start to learn tricks of the trade and you become proficient at it, and it's like, again, not making any more excuses for my lifestyle. That's just the way it is. That's just the business that we are in.
Well, everybody works at something. What do you want to work at? Exactly. Everybody works at something. Like, whatever you're going to do tomorrow when you wake up to go to work, whatever you're going to work at something, and somebody's going to make you work pretty damn hard at it. And if your work is laying in bed and procrastinating and going over things over and over in your head, and you feel this alarm in your head, then that's your work. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, no matter what, you can't escape it. So you may as well choose to work on something that you love. And that brings you joy and that contributes as many of positive factors as you can get to line up with something you can do for a living, the better you'll feel about life.
So I'll ask you this. I feel like, again, we're talking about respect and reverence. I have a lot of respect and reverence to people who do what I do, who have been doing it longer and more efficiently, but primarily longer. People who've been in the game doing something that that I aspire to be longer than I have are people that I revere, people that I'm inspired by, and people that I admire. I've had, my wife, she comes from a very musical family. She's played in the symphony. They're all string players. And I go to parties with her teachers, and they become her friends. And so I'm around musicians of all different kinds constantly. And I have a great immense respect for them. So that brings in this, what I'm about to say. I have a great respect for you because, again, you've been doing what I'm doing way longer. So automatically it's like, I owe you a great deal of respect because in some way, you and the people that came before me are laying down the groundwork for what I'm about to do or what I'm aspiring to do. So I would ask you, what is some advice that you would give somebody, not me particularly, but somebody who is coming up in our field? You know, what would be the...
Well, part of the artist's work in our society is to be a contagion. Because when I've inspired people to change their life, I've inspired people to alter their course. Mm-hmm. Just because they're like, oh, look, he's doing it. I had an ex-girlfriend who went to work every day and she felt fine about it until we got together. Because she's like, oh, that's what you're doing today? Yeah, I'm at the beach right now and then I'm going to work on some tunes. I'm going to do some practicing, right? Yeah. And she's like, oh, okay. And she has to work so many hours and oftentimes making less money than I was making.
I'll tell you my goal at this point, and tell me if this is unrealistic, if I'm aiming too high or I'm aiming too low. I mean, because again, I think you are a professional essentially, and I am too, but I am much less experienced than you. My goal, where I'm at right now professionally, is at least 3 gigs a week that are at least $100. And that's pretty much how I sustain myself. Dude,
I gotta tell you, look, this podcast is taking place in Jacksonville, Florida, and I met a bass player at a gig at Ocean 60 a few years ago, and I don't like to work for $100 a gig because I just don't. And
I mean, inflation's gone up, and it's been $100 a gig since forever.
This guy, he's moved here he said 1987. Let's say, I think he said 84, but let's say 87. And he said, back in 87, it was $100 a man. And this was and he's like, this is 2009, and it's $100 a man. And he goes, and back in 1987, $100 was $100. Gasoline was like $1 or something.
Right, exactly.
I don't know. And, and the pay for musicians hasn't gone up. And if you bring it up to people, a lot of people around here in this conservative part of the country will be like, well, musicians should have to pull themselves up by their bootstraps and do their own merchandising.
Shit, yeah.
No, do their own merchandising and sell their CDs, and they shouldn't rely on the venue.
Your own sound guy.
They shouldn't rely on the venue to pay you. And that's one way of looking at it. You can do that.
That's terrible. That's no return.
But the quality of live music here in Jacksonville is I don't get to go out as often as I would like to. But there's just probably just a handful of live acts that are really good. That are saying something different.
Yeah.
In their live performance.
I've been in the scene again since high
school. And there's 1 million people here.
Right.
But something I was going to tell you about earlier is getting exposure, and the love people appreciating music from the audience perspective is. I just want to touch on it really quick. Is that you need to put yourself out there for content exposure because people will give you money. People will support you. You have to find the people to support you, and you have to have a reliable place for them, like your own website.
Yeah,
you have to have a reliable place to go find your links and a bunch of other stuff. Because, look, there's a guy who made a podcast that I loved so much. I gave him $50. I mean, let's say I was the only person in Jacksonville, which is 1 in a million.
And I support several.
Yeah.
YouTube
now
channels.
let's say one person in every city did that. 1 in a million people did that for this guy. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. So you have to broaden your scope beyond the city, because the city's haters. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding, guys.
Yep, he's kidding.
No,
but so, specifically in this community, though, how do you handle the hate? How do you handle the content, the scrutiny? How do you handle the hustle? How do you keep yourself?
Well, dude,
your head above water?
This is the easiest city I've ever lived. This is the easiest city to make a living in.
That's what I've heard. Artist. I've heard that too.
Yeah, as an artist, period.
And that's
Look, if you can't develop your artistic style in Jacksonville, if you're a dude who you're a one-man show primarily. Like, you do your illustration if you're an artist, or you're doing your own guitar, you're a solo guitarist, or you're a classical guitarist, whatever. If you can't develop that here, you're not going to
do it anywhere.
Well, most likely you're not going to move to New York and work 3 jobs and then come home and then practice and pay your high-ass rent.
Right, exactly.
You know, maybe you can do that in Baltimore. Maybe you can do it in Detroit right now.
Yeah. Well, that's what I like about... That's another thing that's keeping me here. I'm not necessarily here in Jacksonville, but I like the pace of the South. That's one thing I do like about the South. I like the sleepiness. I like the quiet.
Oh, man, it drives me crazy, bro.
It drives you crazy?
It drives me crazy, man.
You like
My
that?
lady knows it.
You like the high-paced city life?
No. I like dry weather.
Oh, well, yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
and it's very invigorating when you have a constant breeze at night. You know, it's invigorating.
Yeah,
You
definitely.
know.
The weather is,
You know, that's such a big part of how people choose to live somewhere is the weather. It's like, what, 50%? You know? Oh, it always rains there. Oh, it's too sunny there. Or it's
very basic. Like going back to our animal instincts.
Yeah.
It's very basic.
Yeah, man. And it's been 14 years and I can't get over it.
No, you're right about that. No, I mean, that's a different stuff. Yeah,
you know,
the weather is, I hate
so
it.
as to advice that I could have for somebody you asked me for advice, what I could tell people as to how to gig in this place is, first of all, it is very easy, and it looks impossible if somebody's never done a gig before, it looks impossible. And like that, you just don't. But when you cross that threshold and you go do your first gig, it doesn't matter. Take your first gig, $25, $50. It doesn't matter what they pay you. Just take your first gig. You're going to suck, most likely. So you're going to be nervous. Exactly. You know, it's like, but they need you and you need them. And so just do that gig. And when you cross that curtain, it's like discovering the Wizard of Oz.
Definitely.
You're like, oh, this is what's going on back here? Like, this is nothing. I was afraid of this.
Definitely.
You know?
And that's the thing. My first... Because, you know, I've been working on making a living as a musician for a while now. And my first gig my first steady gig that I had, I was playing at a restaurant. And it was a trio. It was me, another guitarist, and my wife on violin. And this was roughly in 2009? 2009, 2010, somewhere around that time. And this is when I was starting to break into that scene. This is the time where I started really pursuing music professionally, because before then I had played in bands, and it was mostly like bar bands, you know. But I quickly realized that's not something I wanted to be a part of. I wanted to actually become a professional musician, not just a guy writing songs in a band and playing bars for beer. So my first gig that I took on was playing in a restaurant, and the lady, she would pay us, she would guarantee us a free meal, a tip bucket, and free drinks. And that to me at the time, because this is like right before I got married, into the time I got married, I was very broke, like individual. Like I lived literally from one hustle to the next, you know. And that seemed to me like a great deal, like a really great deal for some reason at that time. And for the skill set that maybe I had at that time, maybe it was a good deal. I don't know. Maybe. I mean, I was performing some pretty high level stuff. I was doing primarily classical and Brazilian stuff and some jazz. So it's pretty advanced kind of stuff. But still, in my mind, it seemed logical. And one day, after doing this gig maybe for like 3 months or 4 months, one day she said she's not going to give us free drinks anymore, and started limiting the food we could get. And that's the minute where, and at that point I had developed as a musician where we were getting tips, and people were coming to see it. People were coming to this establishment specifically to see us, because like, oh, this so-and-so trio plays every Sunday, so we got to go there, right? So I started developing confidence and a sense of worth. And the minute she told us that, that's when we said, we're not doing this anymore. And that's when I became a professional musician. That's when I started pursuing paid gigs and actually starting my headway to actually making a living as a professional musician to some degree. So that's my advice, I would say.
Well, look at the difference between you playing with your trio at home or one of your houses or in a garage or something. And look at the difference between you playing with a trio at the restaurant and you got a beer tab and some food and you tip like it.
And an education.
Yeah, and an education. You know, so it's like, it's all, for any artists out there thinking about it, it's always better to play in public than to play by yourself.
Definitely. And that's, dude, thank you for saying that, because I fight with my musician friends that are also working musicians. You know, I play at Bowl Bean every Wednesday with my wife, and there we just get a coffee tab. We get Bowl Bean cards and no money, but that's the only relatively free gig that I do. We get $30 on our card, and over time, like, I have, like, I don't know, like, more money than I could spend in coffee, basically. Mm-hmm. But the reason I do that gig, and I have other friends that do that gig, but on different days, and they complain about it and whatever. But the reason I do it is because it gives me a presence in the community, and it could be a rehearsal at home, but it's better to rehearse in a public space, because then you're rehearsing performance. Mm-hmm. And that's something you can't rehearse at home. You can't rehearse performance at home.
No, yeah.
Because a performance requires an audience. Without an audience, there's no performance. Mm-hmm. So that's one. And two, the amount of opportunities that I've gotten from playing that free gig are immense. Now, other opportunities have come to do similar kind of free gigs like that, and I don't take them because it's simply not worth my time. One is enough. Mm-hmm. One gig like that, I say everyone who's working as a professional musician should have a presence in their community. And you should do a gig like that. Yeah, man,
it's right in line. I lived in Springfield for, believe it or not, over 12 years, like 13 years I lived in Springfield. And I was there in like 2003, or 2002 or 2003. And people think they're pioneering right now, but I was really pioneering, you know. And so I lived there before I lived in Avondale, and I played at 3 Layers Coffee House.
Oh, I know that place.
For free on Sundays. And they didn't even give me a freaking coffee card. They just gave me free coffee and a salad when I went. And then they would give me shit about giving me a salad. You know, I'm like, I'm doing this gig for free. And I did it because it was kind of selfish. Like, it was a coffee house in my neighborhood that I did not want to close down.
Right.
And the people who owned it were real nice. You know, and...
you know Ron Spencer? The bass player?
Yeah. I think he lives in Springfield, right? Yeah, I think he used to walk up the street from me. He has 2 dogs or something like that.
I don't know. Yes, I don't know. But he's kind of an older gentleman. He plays bass.
Yeah. I've run into him there. Yeah. I run into him getting in my car, out of my car.
Yeah. That guy's an inspiration, man. I love that guy.
Yeah, I don't know him very well.
He's a sweetheart, man. He had brain surgery, and he, like, came out a new man. Like, he's been in the business since forever. He's played in polka bands. He's played in jazz bands. He's just done it all. It's like really an inspirational.
You know what's funny?
I'll
tell you what's funny about being a musician is so many people in this city. You're marginalized. I don't even really know what that word is, but you're seen as separate from the rest of society when you're gigging. You're kind of like a joke to a lot of people. You're not serious like a doctor, or you're not in finance,
or HR.
You're kind of
like
like if, for example, like if there is a chick that might be interested in you in a group, and the guy in the group likes her, and this company's out to lunch, or they're out to dinner. One of the guys in there, what are you gonna do? Like hook up with a musician? Like they don't know that we make a living, and probably make more money than them.
It's an honest living, you know.
But I'm saying, like me, I'm definitely not one of the cheapest musicians in the city, and I've worked my way in that position through a specialized. What I do is very specialized. What I do is so specialized, you can't find somebody who does it, or few people who do it across the entire country, maybe the world.
Yeah.
You know, and what I did developed through live performance, not through studio recordings.
Yeah.
You know, I'm very confident in my live performance. It's a very full sound.
You're great. You're great at what you do, man. You're absolutely great. And
Thank you. I'm glad you think so too.
Oh, that's one thing, man. You know, I move around in a lot of circles, musical circles.
Helps you live longer.
I move around in a lot of musical circles, and I've been able to witness the different attitudes in the different kinds of musicians. Like, I've gigged with like strictly jazz musicians, like university graduated, gigging musicians, guys that only play jazz and get called for gigs and get put in hotel gigs or whatever, and they've never interacted before, and then they play standard repertoires, and that's the drive. You get as many gigs and you make money, and so like, and the artistic expression comes through playing this music, but it ends there. Once you're off the clock, you're just a Joe Schmo, and this is just the end of it. And the attitude with those cats is like, I need to get paid or else I'm not playing music. Then I've mingled with rock bands, which is a completely different attitude. Man, it's my art. I'll do it for free all day, for any day, every day, right?
I'll work at Chili's. And
exactly. As long as I can express. So I've witnessed that. And then I've surrounded myself with acoustic, folkloric acts like the Old Time Jam and all that. And their attitude is music is about the community. Music is not about monetary gain. Music is about giving the community something. So it's three different philosophies that are conflicting, you know?
Yeah.
And I struggle with finding my own place in that. And then I see what you do, which is kind of what is more admirable to me in one sense, is that you create your own voice and you find a way to market it in your own terms, and you can still have the same, you can enjoy the benefits of being the kind of musician, like a jazz musician who makes good money, but has to jeopardize his own personality. And you also get the benefits of the rock musician who gets to express himself and do whatever the fuck he kind of wants to do. And you also get the benefits of the folk musicians who get to be part of the community. So like that's kind of like a tough place to find, you know.
I'll tell you what. I'll tell you two things. Is one thing, I'm exactly where I want to be.
Yeah.
I'm not Tom Waits, who is so original and amazing, and every new album that he comes out with is like something. But I'm with my daughter, and I'm not touring. And,
that's amazing.
And I'm a homebody by nature, okay? And then another thing, what was the other thing? Shit, I don't remember. The other thing is, just that I'm exactly where I want to be, you know? And I didn't pick my career path. I just knew that I wanted to play music for a living.
And I love that. And it found
okay, I just knew.
You found
and
your
then
voice
somebody
over
wrote an
time.
article saying that I played Novo Flamenco. And then somebody called me and said, "Hey, do you play Novo Flamenco?" I'm like, "Yeah, it'll be $1,000." Okay, you're hired. Guess what? I play Novo Flamenco.
Right.
It's like, guess what I play now?
Yeah.
No, you know, and
it's so funny because I just don't relate to any of these. I wholeheartedly don't relate to any of these archetypes that I've just described to you. Like, I have a tough time, even though I have a huge passion for jazz. I have a hard time relating with jazz musicians because jazz musicians, for the most part, a lot of the ones that I know aren't very abstract and kind of, they're more like craftsmen. You know, they like classical musicians. They're very good at a craft. They're not sort of like looking for some sort of profound form of expression. So I often conflict with jazz musicians.
they're not trying to say something. They're not trying to say something of their own with it.
But
like
that's not true. That's not true either, because they are, because jazz.
But I mean,
is an individual. I mean, it's a great. I'm going to get a lot of hate for this because I do. Jazz is a tradition that I am very passionate about and I love. And I
think our friend Lawrence hates jazz.
Who?
Doesn't he hate jazz?
Lawrence
Buckner.
He hates jazz.
I think he hates it, bro.
I think the one who hates jazz is Claude Bass.
Oh, really?
I think he
Bassing with Claude.
Claude, yeah.
How do you say his last name? It's something. These are all cool guys.
Yeah,
man.
they're all really cool dudes.
Yeah.
I don't know if Lawrence is a very great jazz musician. He's an example of a jazz musician that I would want to be like.
Yeah, he's my homeboy, man. He's my friend.
He's a guy that I really admire the hell out of Lawrence.
Yeah.
That's not the kind of guy I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And Lawrence, he's got a great ear. He's very intuitive. Sings, and he's not like one of those very.
No, man, he's very creative.
No bullshit,
creative,
bullshit kind of artist. And I wish I had a better relationship with him. I mean, like personal. I wish I could hang out with him more, but he's great. Von Barlow is great too. You know,
Lawrence is he's kind of like, we're similar in the sense that he seems to be very limited in his hanging. He's kind of a loner,
Yeah.
I'm a
loner too, man.
I'm kind of a loner. People are like, I'll meet people sometimes, and they'll be thinking, "Oh, Goliath doesn't want to hang out with me." No, you understand? I'm not hanging out with anybody.
Yeah. Well, see, and this is why
I've been alone for 3 days.
This is why this is cool, because it's like we get to hang out and turn it into something artistic and expressive.
This is part of the reason, because I don't get to do this that often with people, that I want to document it and I want to share it, and I want to for people to relate to it, and I want people to hate it, and I want people to talk shit about it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah.
No, and I want and I want my family to see it, because I'm not going to be on Facebook.
Yeah.
So I don't want them to see it.
Exactly.
And I want the inflection there, and the expressions. And we have access to it.
Less ambiguity than text.
Yeah, and we have access to it, so let's do it.
Exactly.
Yeah,
man.
Yes.
But yeah.
All right, that's the end of the show. Bye.
That's the end of the show? No. And see, and then the rock guys.
We have like 18 minutes left.
Okay, cool. That's good. And then the rock guys is like the opposite. They'll do anything. They'll just and see, and that's the thing, man. That's another reason I love studying music from the past, because see, to me, it's easier to relate music to people or to study music from a social point of view than it is from a theoretical point of view. The theoretical part interests me because I'm a nerd about music and I love to study it, but I'm aware that means nothing. It's just a system, like studying half diminished chords and running.
Let me ask you a question. How do you study a half diminished chord?
All right. Well, for one, is half diminished.
Because I'm gonna tell you, dude, music theory bores the shit out of me, dude. It's
I like it.
You like it, but I am just
exactly,
like, man.
Exactly, and I understand why, because it's only a system. It's not absolute. It's only music theory is only in place so that I can understand a concept that is so abstract that's the only way somebody created a language for me to analyze a certain thing, but it's not it. That's not it. That's just a way of looking at it, you know. But the reason I like studying old music is because a more productive way of studying music and sharing music with people is from a social point. Like, how did music become a certain way? And when you start asking that question, and it becomes the narrative of people. And then when it becomes a narrative of people, then you have something that you can actually, some data that you can manipulate, like the idea that musicians, there's always been two camps. There's always been the courts musicians that entertain the wealthy people, and there's been the mud musicians.
That's me.
Exactly. That's you. You're the guy. And then there's...
But I'm all over the place.
Yeah, and then there's the musicians that are the musicians of the people that are... And it's kind of a dance that's been going around. And before the recording industry, the idea that becoming a musician was some way that you can become like a millionaire was like completely... That was not the case at all. You play music because it's the only way people can entertain each other. And there was a lot of...
If you wanted to hear music...
You had to play it.
You had to play it, or you had to get somebody to play it.
And that's why American music evolved so quickly, because it became this sharing of information. Like musicians from Milwaukee and Kentucky would come to Mississippi, or musicians from Kansas City would come down from the Mississippi River down to New Orleans, and the sound just evolved because it wasn't about making money. It was just about this network of people that were sharing information and creating, and people with all different backgrounds. I mean, like Chinese immigrants, Irish immigrants, black slave descendants, white aristocrats. Like, that's why the story of American music is, to me, so fascinating, because it's a narrative of the melting pot. It's like the story of American music goes side to side with the story of America in general. And that's one thing that I'm really fascinated about, the idea that musicians at some point were like medicine show performers. Like, there's this guy, Gus Cannon, who's a black banjo player from the turn of the century. He was a medicine show performer, and what that meant, a medicine show performer was the lowest form of entertainment. Like, you're literally traveling around in a wagon, and you were traveling around with a salesman that was trying to sell some sort of magical potion, elixir, miracle cure.
Yeah.
Coca-Cola was one of those magical elixirs. Yeah. And your goal was to get a crowd of people so that the salesman could pitch this magical potion to the crowd. So that was a medicine show performer. So the idea that a musician could have a social role that could be pigeonholed to a historical period in time is fascinating. That's amazing. Mm-hmm. That to me is way more interesting than anything. And when you put that into context, you just start to think to yourself, who's the modern day, like where do you fit into this into this archetype?
Yeah, that's what happened to me. I just don't give a fuck. I didn't give a fuck anymore. Like I didn't because look, I came from being a teenager and wanting to be a rock star. That mentality, I didn't know I was going to be a rock star. I actually didn't think I would be a musician professionally ever. So I came from that, and then I was like, man, I want to be like these guys playing at bars, and I want to be a real band playing.
Real musician.
I want to be a real musician playing at a live venue that we had to fund our own tour van with, and the record company's keeping all the money, and all these people are supporting us because they love indie music, but the record company's making all the money.
Yeah, fuck that. Fuck the record company.
But I'm saying, so you have that illusion that you're doing something different at, let's say, Jackrabbits. But if you're playing at the Brick, you're just doing something, I don't know. It's like your fans might go to Jackrabbits and support you, your record company.
yeah, whatever.
But I'm saying, and they gave you a little tour van.
I'll never play Jackrabbits ever in my life, ever.
But again. I'm saying I don't know anything much about the place. I went to a show there once, and that was about it. And
it's bullshit, man.
It flooded.
I hate it there, man.
It flooded,
and I think some of that is part of the popular collective mentality. Because when I told my folks,
Jackrabbits is this club here in Jacksonville, Florida, that's been around for a long time.
Yeah,
there's a lot of indie bands go through here and play there,
and a lot of has-been rock bands play through there too.
Yeah. Oh, has-been ones.
Yeah, like pop punk acts from the 2000s.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Like, I hated that shit. I always hated that shit. If you love that shit, I'm sorry. I hate that shit.
I grew up with that shit.
Yeah.
But anyway, my parents told me, like, okay, so we get that you've been wanting to be an artist since you were 4 years old, and you're going to art school, and we were supporting this little fantasy of yours. I mean, they didn't put it like that. They were very more supportive than most in that regard. But when I said I wanted to be a musician, then everybody's like, "Oh, so you want to be famous? So you want to be famous?" Like, no, I want to make a teacher salary. I want to make a basic salary playing music. I don't want to be famous. Yeah. There's no desire There's no desire for glory. I just want to make a living doing music.
Yeah, man. To be Adamant. If you know who Adamant is, he was I just saw a documentary about him. He's a rock star in England from the 80s.
Oh, yeah.
And he was big, man. He was big. He was second biggest from Diana at the time, Princess Diana, which is huge.
Yeah.
And so the price for that creativity, the price for that is just not something I'm willing to pay.
Yeah.
And
but see, I admire somebody more. If you're going to talk about rock stars, maybe somebody like Frank Zappa, who is somebody who is driven by the work and not as much by the personality. Although certainly he's definitely a personality, but that passion to pursue music for music's sake, and that's what I love about the jazz world. The fact that music can become this thing that is pure expression. That is something that fascinated me more so than the rock star thing, because the rock star thing to me, I had those aspirations too when I started playing guitar. It's like a rite of passage. But the rock star thing, the more you study music by itself and ignore the rock thing, the more you realize that rock is more. It's not just about the music. Rock is about an image and about a product and about a facade and about selling something invisible. And I don't dig that, man. When it comes to music, I want the music to be a force of empowerment, and I want it to stand on its own. And I want the aesthetics to be apparent to the listener. I don't want it to be like for instance, when you see Lady Gaga, right? And here's one. I don't know if she's relevant anymore. I don't know shit about modern music, but when I see Lady Gaga, one of the problems that I have is that, oh, she's really artsy, she's really alternative and different. You wouldn't know it from listening to the music. If you listen to the music, it just sounds like some pop act. Mm-hmm. She's only alternative and different and cool because her show is like filled with like...
If you see her.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. But the music doesn't speak progress. The music is not itself a form of pure expression. Now, you can pair the music with great images. That is true. And that makes it more efficient. And that goes to... Mm-hmm. You know, it's like the different arts, the different magics. You know, like music has the ability to engage people emotionally. Visual arts have the ability of impacting somebody immediately. Mm-hmm. So if you pair those things together, you have a perfect winning combination. But both things should stand on their own. If they don't, and that's the problem I have with rock, that it's too much posering, too much about being cool.
So I had this philosophy when writing songs, which I don't write songs very often, but I had this philosophy, you know, songs with lyrics. The philosophy was, if I don't like the song with just me and the guitar, it's not ready to elaborate on it yet.
I agree with that.
You know, and I had to like compromise on that philosophy because shit, it's too hard. I mean, like you have to find other approaches.
And you know,
to make music because it gets boring.
Definitely. And
you know,
I actually used to get pretty angry about the fact that this is when I was doing only rock stuff, you know, and I would play with bands, and I had other ambitions. I know we're going short on time, but I had other musical ambitions. And I
have to walk my dog too.
Okay,
I have to let him out.
I'll finish with this. My other musical ambitions were beyond my peers that were playing rock and stuff and playing bars. And I would see that they would get success, and I kept studying music by itself, and I kept trying to improve upon the music to virtually no more or less result than the people that were just working on the image and just putting 50-50 in each thing. So, like, I found, like, I was studying form. I was studying different forms of songwriting, different types of music, incorporating different types of movements, you know, getting rid of chord changes, defining chord changes, experimenting with melody, experimenting with different types of, you know, whatever, trying to find my voice as an artist through rigorous studying of music, and virtually getting a similar or less response in the environment as somebody who didn't do that same amount of work and is in a bar. And it's like, because the audience is just drunk young people. There's not going to be, you know, it doesn't mean anything, you know. Yeah. So really, I guess, to bring it full circle, what I think people like you and me aspire for is to find a place where our voice can be not only heard but developed upon and appreciated, you know. So
I mean, I know people appreciate what I do.
Oh, definitely.
Because they write me and they tell me in person, and I've affected people profoundly, man. Like profoundly, like.
I mean, you're
the way that I wanted
you're a veteran
to
in this town, man.
Yeah, you know, and I have my own songs, and I play them at gigs like over the years less and less, because then if I played my songs at gigs where people were not listening, then I would feel like an ass. But if I could jam on some flamenco, you know, and improve my work on it, you know.
That's the thing about my friends who are in the rock world tell me, well, all you do is play covers. It's like, no, I'm using a standard song as a vehicle for my own expression.
Yeah, but what's wrong? Like, what the fuck is the stigma with playing covers? Like, people have told me that so many times about playing covers. But like, does this sound anything like the song that you heard?
No, exactly.
No, because I'm doing it completely different.
Exactly.
You know,
exactly.
And it's like, and it's a homage, whatever, how you say it, sausage, to the people who wrote it, to me, that you inspired them to do something like that, something different with it. You know, you're talking about the roles in society to play. You know, I play in hospitals, right? You know, I play in hospitals. I've been doing that for like, I don't know, man, like 10 years or something.
I play nursing homes. I do that.
I play in people's hospital rooms, and that's the most rewarding gig that I do. And I go into somebody's hospital room who's in the hospital, you know, there's machines beeping, and they're laying there, and other machine sounds, and they're not in a good state. And if they happen to let me in their room, I have an escort, and they ask them in there. they'd never regret it.
Wow.
You know, because I go in there and I do something at the level that I do for them.
Yeah.
There, and when I walk out of there, they went from being like somber to wide awake.
Wide awake.
Or they went from being in pain to going to sleep. I'm kind of like a musical doctor.
That's great.
Like if they want to go to sleep, I'll
Yeah.
play some real soft music. Something about somebody playing music and giving you
Soothing.
attention. Not only playing the music, but giving you the attention.
Yeah.
I'm doing this for you right here. I don't want to know what it feels like to have somebody come play music in a hospital because I never want to be in a hospital.
Yeah, exactly.
But from this end, it's like that's probably, I don't know, man. That's one of my best roles
Yeah.
in society, doing that.
Yeah, I played a nursing home pretty regularly.
That's with Body and Soul, by the way. I should have James Jenkins on the show. He's the guy who started. He's a sousaphone, the tuba player in the symphony.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, he started that years ago.
Yeah.
Body and Soul.
I'd love to get involved in that.
Yeah, man. I'll
sometime.
tell him.
That'd be great.
I'll tell him you can meet
I
him.
would love to do that. But I played at this nursing home, Taylor Manor, and it's in Mandarin.
Dun, 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 dun.
Time. Oh my god.
You gotta wrap it up over here.
Wrap it up, box. Okay. Well, anyway,
Because I have to take Nubis out,
yeah.
and I have to get ready for my gig,
and I have to go.
and I have to pee.
I have to go pick up my wife too, and I have to get ready for my gig. But
My gig is sooner than yours.
yeah.
Mine is like in an hour.
Damn, I got to pick up my wife at 5, so I got 30 minutes.
Mine's in an hour.
Damn. Well, real quick, we should do this again.
Yeah,
sometime.
we'll do it again too. Yeah, we'll do it.
Part 3.
Yeah. I mean, we're just gonna keep doing these.
Well, tell you what, man. Next time, I'm gonna smoke a doobie before coming in.
You should do it right here on camera.
I'll
Just
do
kidding.
it.
No, I don't know. This is Florida, bro.
That's true.
Yeah.
Well, the reason I want to do it is because
He's kidding, by the way. He doesn't smoke weed. He's just totally making that up.
I'm totally fooling. But I feel like I'm funnier, man, when I smoke weed.
Well, really? I think I want to see what it's like. You don't want to see me. I don't smoke weed because I'm not. Look, dude, I really like what's going on in here, and people trip out on that. You know what I mean? Like, I love what's going on in here, and to alter that too much this way or that way, I'm like, no.
I'll tell you what it is. Weed for me is like a cup of coffee.
And look at me, dude. I'm already crazy.
Oh yeah, but for me, weed is not about modifying my experience as much as just like having a sip of coffee. You know, it's like the same kind of thing.
Well, not me. It's like if I drank a glass of whiskey this big in front of me.
Oh my god, not for me.
It's like if I just drank a glass of whiskey.
You would go crazy. I couldn't do that.
No, but I'm saying that has a strong effect on me.
Yeah. But yeah, all right. Well, that's a wrap.
That's a wrap, folks. I'll see y'all later.
Till next
Much
time.
love. Cariño, cariño.